Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Spring 19 3v3 Arena Tournament. This is the first of the year, many more to come. I'm very happy to present this to you today with my co-host, Big Moran. My name is Blackout. Moran, tell the stream how you're feeling about today.
Dude, I'm feeling so excited. I haven't been on EU in a while. It's nice to be back. Excited to see these 4 teams battle it out today in this, what I expect to be mage-dominated tournament because mages are overpowered in Arena. But yeah, I'm excited to see the games and hope to see some good competitive bouts here today.
Yeah, I'm totally the same about it. I mean, I was doing games with some of the teams yesterday, practicing so that they could get some practicing beforehand. And it's quite interesting, some of the compositions that people are choosing to run. I'm not going to give any spoilers just yet, but I'm very, very highly anticipating certain teams to do well over others if these other teams cannot pull out compositions. I'm just saying that now, guys. I'm so excited to get into this. But I'll tell you one thing. It looks like the teams are almost ready to get in. And we are just going to go crazy with this straight into the first game. So what we've got coming up in round 1, Moran, is Twink Mentors that has Best World, Bianco, a guy called Vet, and Raz on that team, going up against Tropic Blunder. Now, Tropic Blunder, that team consists of only 3 players. There's not 4 men on that roster. It's a guy called Goats, a guy called the Hoff, and a guy called 20 Baits. I know that all of those guys are multi-classes. So that's going to be pretty exciting to see how that pans out. I don't expect you to know any of these players, though, because a lot of them are EU. But do you have any expectations in this first series?
Oh, I expect my boy Raz to win. I know he's a really good player. He's actually really good at endgame. I think he's been Gladiator a few times, so he definitely knows his way around the arena. But yeah, and I recognize Bianco, of course. I know he's the GM or something with Tough Love. But yeah, I expect Raz's team to do well. And I think they have a comp advantage here in the first round. I think it's going to be difficult for a warrior to stay on a target. And even then, if he does manage to connect to a target, this warlock will just be able to tee off on him. So I'm expecting to see a pretty good game in this first series. Again, I expect Raz's team to do exceptionally well.
Okay, so just giving you guys a breakdown of what you're seeing right here. We have Raz up on the Holy Paladin. We have Best World on the Warlock. We have Bianco on the Enhancement Shaman. On the opposite team, we have 20 Baits on Holy Paladin, Big Etim on the Enhancement Shaman, and the Hoff on Warrior. So this is going to be a turbo going up against LSD Power 3 something. I don't know what it is. The gates are open. Let's see how this opening start of the fight pans out.
And it looks like the warrior charges in. He's looking to get some damage on the enhancement shaman. This enhancement shaman will be looking to get a proc and do a lot of bursts on a single target. But you can see the warrior's full feared right now. He can't break that. He is playing with his trinket, but he doesn't have that trinket to use on that fear. And it looks like, again, both these enhancement shamans are just kind of teeing off on each other in the middle of the map right now as the paladins just heal the back.
Just notice the damage that's coming out of Raz's team right here. His enhancement shaman is throwing so much damage out onto the enhancement shaman of the enemy team at that point, and you can see that 20 Bait's having a hard time keeping both of these guys topped. All it's going to take is Best World to connect a fear over onto 20 Bait, and that could be a trinket or a bubble quite early on into this game. But Best World now is the target of choice. The enhancement and the warrior just raining hell on him. Almost in the kick range of Raz here. He's got to be really careful that he doesn't get kicked while he's spamming flash here, because Best World's in a lot of trouble right now with no peels coming out from Bianco, because Best World's just choosing to try and heal through the damage rather than to kite on it.
Yeah, I mean, Warlocks are very limited in this matchup. They have very limited mobility, and this Warlock, I believe, is playing the Drain Soul Spec, and he is able to channel that on to Bidge Tim for the kill. And yeah, the Enhancement Shaman Turbo Cleave is doing a lot of damage on the Warlock, but once he gets those UA stacked on a target, and once he gets that Drain Soul pumping, he's able to do a lot of damage. It's exactly what happened to Big Tim at the end of that matchup.
Yeah, there was a couple of UAs that got thrown out there. It was 2, maybe even 3 at that time. And I seen the Drain Soul come out there, and his health just flopped. I mean, 20 Bait wasn't even locked at that point, I don't believe. I think he was just casting into it, and he just died through the healing there. Maybe the big time should have tried to throw out some healing surges as the off heals, try and, slow some of that damage down until 20 Bait stabilized in there, until then those UAs actually fell off. But it looks like that Raz's team, Twink Mentors, have took the first in this series. It's no surprise to you, apparently, as you expected these guys to win with the massive amounts of experience on the team. But Yeah, that's 1-0. But this is a best of 5, guys. That was kind of like the feeler game, the Grand Arena. I'm interested to see what Tropic Blunder's going to pull out after that. I'm not sure what they can pull out there. Actually, I know that the Holy Paladin on their team, he can play Disc Priest and Resto Shaman. I'd like to see them try pull out the Disc Priest, to be honest. I feel like they're lacking a little bit lackluster on the healing.
Yeah, I don't know why each team was playing with the Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin just seems like suboptimal for this type of setting. But yeah, the Holy Paladin, it does have that Hodge, and there is no Dispel at 19, so you can get a full stun, but the Disc Priest healing and damage is just way too good to give up.
I think so too. But at the same time, I mean, my experience as of doing war games yesterday, I did a significant few, might I add. And at least with Raz on that Holy Paladin, it felt like that his healer was just enough, and bringing that Hodge into the table, that's huge. Because the time that you go with a Hodge is a guaranteed trinket there and then, because you're not going to be able to sit Hodge into a full fear or into a poly if you're playing with a mage or any kind of follow-up CC like that. So on the next time round, he's only going to survive 1 minute. He's going to have a trinket and a bubble to break CCs on himself, even to survive if they swap to him. I mean, he's quite good. I don't know. I think he's quite underrated, at least in some of the matchups that these guys are looking to play.
That's true, and I wish I would have done my homework before that match started. I didn't look at the specs that each class is playing, but I expect to see also a lot of enhancement shamans because they do have a ton of bursts at 19, and I think they're one of the only. I think they are actually the only class with a range interrupt. So while that Holy Paladin is just tunneling heals in the back, the only way to stop those is with a wind shear. There's no counter spell, no spell lock at 19, so it's really important that you have an enhancement shaman on your team to just deny those paladin heals, and hopefully you're going to be looking to get a Lava Lash proc at the same time you deny that heal for a lot of burst damage on a single target.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just think that having a full stack of energy as well as an enhancement shaman, as that procs when you get that shear, so that you can dump in the lava lash with the 100% increased damage from the hot hand talent, and then you can just load more and more and more lava lashes after that, and you can just crush someone even from high HP to 0 practically solo. I think. Then you might even be lucky enough to get a proc again and have 2 hot hand procs, and then it's just game over, essentially.
Yeah, no, I've been playing Enhancement Shaman a bit at max level, and that's the core of your damage. That's the core of your setups, is getting that hot hand proc and just dumping that damage. And a lot of the small abilities, small things matter at 19. So just having one shear at the same time you have that hot hand proc, dumping your damage in that 2-second lockout is huge. It's big enough to land a kill. But I want to talk a little bit about the Affliction Warlock spec. It's actually one of my favorite specs to play at 19. And for those of you who don't know, many Affliction Warlocks, well, pretty much the only way to make Affliction viable at 19 is to play with a Malefic Grasp spec. Malefic Grasp, rather. And what that does is when you're channeling Drain Soul, it increases the damage of your damage over time effects dramatically. So Warlocks will often save their soul shards, have full dots on a target, and just unload UAs, and then just press Drain Soul afterwards for a ton of damage. And it's really scary. It's really difficult to heal through. It's pretty much like a Ray of Frost at level 19. It just happens so quick. So that's what these Warlocks will probably be running if you see any more Warlock players, and it's a very good spec to be playing in Arena.
I do notice that. I mean, it's very transparent, even when you're in battlegrounds as well. I mean, when I play in these low-level battlegrounds, I typically play Outlaw Rogue, and yeah, there are classes that deal more damage than Outlaw Rogues, but the opening damage is significantly high. And if you get a Warlock with some dots rolling and managing to get that Drain Soul onto you, you feel like that all your damage is just being out-healed. The healing that comes out of these Affliction Warlocks can be insane, providing that you keep them dots up and get your damage rolling that way. So I do like the choice of going with the Affliction Warlock. I'm not sure of the viability of any of the other specs, in fact, because you never tend to see them. They're quite rare to see someone playing that a lot to really get a feel as to how well it can actually perform. But Big Moran, we've gone into this next game now, and it looks like that 20 Bake's team has decided to choose Dalaran Sewers. What are your thoughts on that?
I like Dalaran Sewers for this matchup. Again, I think if they connect to the Warlock and just stay on the target, or stay on the Warlock, it's going to be difficult for the Warlock to do any meaningful damage. And if they save their Wind Shear actually for all those drained souls, I think they can just outlast Raz's team. So I think if they use kind of a dampening strategy, so to speak, I think they have the upper hand on this map, and I think they know that that Warlock is going to be the target of choice. They could make a swaps to Holy Pally and try to train him a bit, but I think just sticking on that Warlock, denying his damage with his drained souls is what's going to be very important in this matchup.
I agree, and that will allow Raz to free cast if they choose to interrupt that drain soul. That's the only thing I can see, but that gives Best World the control of the position as well. So if he chooses to fight down bottom, that would force 20 Bait to push all the way in, which would then put him under threat of Vianco's Wind Shears. So there's a lot of pros and cons, and also susceptible to phase too. But it looks like the open has happened, and Big Time's taking so much damage right now. 20 Bait is sheared. The Bell Silence comes out. He chose to bubble there because he knows that he's just got to heal as much as he can to try and top him off. Oh, this could be game in the open. The drain souls coming out here. He's in so much trouble right now.
And Best World looking at fear onto 20 Baked. He actually chooses to fear the Hoff, which is kind of a mistake in my opinion. If he just lands a full fear right now on 20 Baked, that's going to be the trinket, and they'll have a good setup for the next time you get a full duration fear. It looks like Best World continues to cast fear, but not on the Holy Paladin. So I think I want them to try to land CC on this Holy Paladin, but he's positioning himself very, very well right now. 20 Baked is. He just needs right now to line these fears as his two melee pump out damage on this Warlock.
True. I think that maybe he was trying to wait on Vianco's call. Maybe he was looking to get some energy, look to get a proc going, because if you noticed at that point in time, he had no energy at that point to be able to dump any damage, so it could have been a wasted fear. Maybe that's what's going on. I'm not sure, but you're right. I think fears need to be getting pumped out onto 20 Bait as much as possible. But Best World is in a lot of trouble right now. Raz having both trinket and bubble left available to him. Just trying to spam pump these heals out right now. Gets Wind Shear there. Best World's in a lot of trouble. I don't think he has his Hellstone left either. He's just desperately spamming Drain Soul to try and keep himself alive. Got the fear over onto Big Time though, which broke on dot damage. He's just trying to control it as much as he can now to keep himself alive.
Yeah, and Raz keeps on getting sheared, and he needs to avoid these because when he gets sheared, he can't even use his bubble to get free cast heals out. But the Hoff right now is taking a ton of damage from this Enhancement Shaman, and he's going to be picked up a bit by 20 Baked. And look at 20 Baked and Raz's mana. They're about half right now. Mana's about even, but that might become an issue later on as both Rage Time and Best World are taking a ton of damage. And again, Best World is just spamming out defensive fears right now in the melee DPS, which is perfectly fine because honestly, there's so much damage coming out from these two melee DPS. It looks like the Paladin's going to be running in to get a Hodge. He uses his Hodge on Bianca, which is instantly trinketed. Raz gets sheared up, and 20 Big gets feared. Full fear, he decides to trinket that, but Best World taking so much damage right now as his health is just spiking, and Raz needs to be really careful about juking Wind Shears, as that might become an issue as this damage is landing over and over on the Best World.
Absolutely. I don't know why Raz is choosing to use Judgment. He's not playing a level 110 Paladin. It's not reducing the cooldown on that Hodge, though. He's looking to push in for a Hodge here because he knows that he's running out of mana here. No trinket on 20 Bakes, and Big Time goes down there when the pressure connected. Raz sees the opportunity, pushing there for that Hodge, forcing 20 Bake to try and kite it line of sight, disabling the ability to heal Big Time, and he essentially flops because of that. That's really great play there. Good setup coming out there from Twink Mentors, and that's going to make them take this series thus far 2-0.
Yeah, and Raz's team did an excellent job forcing cooldowns with racials at the beginning of that game. They did a War Stomp into a Blood Elf Silence, and that forced the bubble out of the enemy Holy Paladin. And again, it was just a matter of time before the trinket was forced with a full fear at the end, and he was forced to trinket that, and then Raz noticed that Paladin had no trinket, no bubble, and he pushed in for that Hodge. So really good awareness by Raz, knowing that he could have ended the game, and that's exactly what he did at the end of that matchup.
He definitely communicated that to his team. He was letting them know that he was running out of mana, and he said, you have to end this now, and they ended it now. They lined that up so well, so props to them for that. It wasn't a complicated setup, but they managed to cycle through all the defensive utilities of the enemy team. If you notice that, what was he called? The enhance on the other team, on Team Blunder, I can't remember his name.
Big Time.
Enhancement shape, yeah, Big Time. But Big Time had no mana left because he'd been off healing so much before, so he couldn't keep himself up. So whilst 20 Bait was LOS, he was receiving 0 healing, and that's a huge part of it, keeping that Enhancement Shaman out of mana for as long as possible. That's going to really, really help these setups be more effective. Even if you can't follow the CC up, it's going to make it more effective. The fact that the Enhancement Shamans won't be able to off heal And I think they knew that, they bared that in mind when they went for that setup, and it was well executed. So great job by them.
And right now, this Turbo Cleave is facing potential last game as we're going into the next game shortly, and this is a best of 5 series. And again, I don't know what more they could be doing. I think what I would recommend to this Holy Paladin on the enhancement or the Turbo Cleave team is to avoid as much CC as possible. These melee players need to push in. I'm sorry, the the Paladin and the Shaman need to push in order to be able to use War Stomp, need to be able to, in order to use their racials, I'm sorry. And so if you just constantly try to avoid CC at all costs, I think your warrior and your enhancement shaman will eventually just tunnel down this warlock to death. And again, Raz wasn't juking many of these wind shears, especially in the middle of that matchup. And as a result, his warlock was taking so much damage, and he was forced to kind of just drain defensively, and he wasn't able to set up as much damage as he possibly could, just because there's so many interrupts just being tanked by the Holy Paladin. And that's very risky because there's nothing you can do when you're interrupted as a Holy Paladin. And so yeah, I think Raz needs to do a better job at avoiding these wind shears, because it's going to be very punishing when his warlock's taking so much damage from the warrior and enhancement shaman.
Which is exactly true. I couldn't agree with you anymore, except for that you have to also take into consideration the fact it is a Holy Paladin. If he has any downtime casting, will he be able to out-heal the incoming damage? So maybe it's kind of like a catch-22. I want to fake cast, I want to not get locked, but am I going to be able to heal it if I just fake cast too much? Am I going to fake cast into death? You'll be possibly wasting Hellstone early on in the game by doing that. So I kind of think you just want to tank the kick high if you can, or force the Warlock to tank the kick. That's even better. Start casting Fears when you know that you're going to get connected on. Try and force the Wind Shear onto that, allowing Raz to heal through all that incoming damage. Getting back into the next game, though, this is going to be Runes of Lordaeron, which has been a match selected by 20 Bake team, Tropic Blunder. And it looks like there's no composition changes. I think both teams are quite happy with the way that this is right now. I feel like the Tropic Blunder think they have a chance, seeing as that game went pretty much to dampening stages, seeing as though those healers got so out of mana. So maybe they just want to try and play the long game, shut that Warlock down, like you said, and just see what happens. Maybe they could just win on a wind shear. Maybe they can get some CC set up as well. 20 Bait can position it right at the right time. When he's on Fear DR, that's a good opportunity to push in if he knows he's got Trinket, to Trinket that counter Hodge that could come out, just to get some level of aggression. And I think that would really punish Best World.
And right now we have a standard opener. The Warlock's just trying to get some dots out, get his soul shards stacking. And he is going to be casting some UAs right now into the Hoff. Looking to get a fear on the Holy Paladin, but because wind shear, he's taking a ton of damage, forced to drain soul defensively without too many dots out. He's going to be casting these defensive fears on the enhancement shaman. The shaman decides to trinket that. He's dipping a bit low. Maybe he wants to heal himself, but no, he's charging right in. And there's a full Hodge right now onto 20 Baked. He's forced to trinket that. Now, if Best World can get a full fear, it's certainly going to be the bubble from 20 Baked, as Big Time is taking a lot of damage. As 20 Baked gets wind sheared, and Big Time just actually goes down. So that actually happened really quick, but again, a lot of damage coming out during a wind shear, and when those shamans lands those wind shears and they dump their damage, it's difficult to recover from that. And so 20 Big just didn't have the resources to deal with that at the end. Really quick game, actually, insanely quick game by Bianco's team and Raz, but well played overall during this entire series. And we're going to be looking to get into the next game shortly as Bianco and Raz move on in this tournament.
Absolutely. They've done a really good job so far, taking that 3-0, somewhat convincing in a couple of the games. But that second game, I feel like that was kind of Tropic Blunder's turning point. I felt like they kind of felt the first game out. And going into that game, they managed to figure out a strategy, but they just couldn't carry that over on into the third game. And Twinkment has capitalized on that, and they just punished them very early on in that game. So great job by those guys. That's going to allow them to progress into the next round.
Yeah, and again, I want to just make a point again that small little details matter at 19, like these racials, which only last for 2 seconds. So the War Stomp and the Arcane Torrent, they only last for 2 seconds, but they make such a big deal, as there are very few recovery mechanics available at 19. I mean, if you're Arcane Torrented, the only defensive thing you can do is use your Health Stone. So these players in this tournament will be looking to make the most out of these tiny little abilities that don't seem to matter too much, but they make a really big deal when there's not many recovery mechanics. But I don't know. Do you know who our next series will be between and what comps they might be running?
I absolutely do. Let's take a look at the brackets real quick here, guys. So as you can see in round one, Twink Mentor taking that 3-0 in that clean sweep there, putting the semi-finals of the winners bracket. But the next series is going to be Team Amigos versus Team looking for LFPL 3K paying cash. Now, that's a bit of a tongue-tying, twisting team name.
Yeah.
So let me just give a breakdown of some of the players that are on this roster. Just to give a little bit of context. So Team Amigos is starring Mui. I know that guy is a druid, but he has pretty much every class you can think of. Very, very well geared within the bracket. So I think that he's going to be very versatile. One of the very versatile players within this team, at least maybe the whole competition, because he has so much accessibility to these classes. We've got Mesmerized or Mesmerized, yeah, Mesmerized, I'm going to call him. And he mains Discipline Priest, so I expect him to be playing on the healing role. And I'm Baddiel, I'm not sure who he is, but I have seen him around a couple of times in arenas and stuff, and I think that he may play a Warlock. I could be wrong. It's been a while. Looking over to the other team, I'm not aware of any of these players. I'm not going to lie. These are French players, I believe. And over on EU, it's not very often, at least, but maybe more so recently than ever, they've been a little more social with other Twink players from different regions and, you know, like the English players and stuff. But in the past, the French have kind of kept themselves in a recluse, so knowing who those all-star players are is quite difficult to find out. And what these tournaments are to highlight that. So maybe these guys are going to be really, really good, and I just don't know about it. I can't give any words on this just yet. I think the next series, we need to get into it, and we need to find out which of these teams is going to prevail.
Yeah, it's funny. I was very upset when I made my EU account that it didn't allow me to make a character on a Russian server. That's all I wanted to do was make a Russian character, but couldn't do that because my region was set to. We need to. We just got a game, but we're gonna have to restart it really quickly as we've queued into the wrong map. It happens, guys. But we did get a little sneak preview of what comps both these teams will be running. So,
do you want to take the guys through that? Just give them a little context.
No, I'll keep it a surprise. I'll give a little hint. We got some mages, boys. Exactly what I thought we were gonna see.
I'm surprised we didn't see Mage in the first round, to be honest. I mean, they have Bianco on their roster, who's main Mage at this bracket for so long. I was playing some RM Holy Pala with him yesterday, and he knew his stuff, you know what I mean? He's definitely a top-tier player, especially in the arena bracket. So I don't see why they didn't pull him out in the first round. Maybe it's just a case of they felt like they can kind of run any comp they chose into that. Into that team, or into, you know, because they know what they could have played and what was on their list, on their roster. So maybe that's what it was. So I'm quite surprised about that. I did expect to see a Mage Lock Pala, not gonna lie, because that would just be really, really fun to see. I must say, I would be excited to see.
Yeah, Mage Lock, when in the last expansion when we ran tournaments at 19, Mage Lock Paladin was insanely good, and not many people ran it, but it has so much control and you can just kind of outlast the enemy team. But again, I think mages are like ridiculously overpowered at 19. You have a lot of control, obviously, with Polymorph and Frost Nova, but you have a lot of damage, both AoE if you decide to Blizzard, and with Ray of Frost. I don't know, Ray of Frost might be banned in this tournament. I don't know the exact rules, but
yes, it is.
Okay, so it's banned, but you still have a lot of damage as a Frost Mage, and when you land those Polymorphs, which have a really long range, you know, you can dump your damage and look to score a kill through controlling the enemy healer. But we're going to get into the first game as both these teams set up behind the pillar, and I think the mages will just be looking to get polymorphs constantly onto the healer, and that's going to be what decides this matchup.
I think this is going to be really interesting. The only difference between these teams is a little bit of damage difference between the Ret and the Enhanced, and trading off the kick for the Hodge. That's basically all that's going to be different here. And I feel like, you know, the synergy between that Paladin composition where you've got the Priest Sphere, Mage Poly, Paladin Hodge, if they could connect a CC chain like that onto Mesmerized, anyone in the enemy team is going to be toast, right? I can't imagine them living through that, especially if they're going in with that execution sentence. Let me go into a little detail about that, guys. execution sentence is not something that you often see anymore. Since Warlords of Draenor, they changed the whole thing. And why are these guys kind of AFK?
I think Mesmerized was running on the treadmill a little bit at the beginning of this game, so I think they're just waiting for him to come back.
That's really cool of them. I respect that. Great sportsmanship by the teams. But whilst that's all going on, we'll give him a moment to see what happens there. I just want to talk about execution sentence. So what this paladin is going to be looking to do is execution sentence in Legion. It requires 3 holy power, and the only way to generate holy power is by using Crusader Strike at this level. You don't have Blade of Justice, so it's going to take a long time to get that up. So once you've got your 3 holy power, you're going to land that execution sentence. It has an 18-second cooldown. After 6 seconds, it'll probably tick for 50% of someone's total health. There's no dispels within the bracket, so the healers can't even dispel it once it gets put up. Once it's up, that damage is going to go off regardless. So if they can just kind of like turtle it out when they get the setup, land the execution sentence, having 2 charges of Crusader Strike available and just push in with it, I feel like that they could just get out a lot of pressure in one burst window, possibly 100 to 0 someone. And in between that time, the Ret Paladin should be looking to be playing the defensive role, off healing a lot, using his position to try and change and manipulate the position of Team Amigos, especially that mage. He doesn't want the mage pushing all the way on top of his healer. That's kind of like when he's just going to train the mage to try and force him away, be a little bit aggressive that way. But other than that, he should be really supporting the priest and keeping the mage alive and doing everything he can to just be going on cooldown as soon as DR is dropped. I feel like that's going to be the best way for this team to be able to score kills against this Amigos company.
Yeah, and the advantage of playing with Ret Paladin is it's not really that risky to run in and get a Hodge. It's risky for a Holy Paladin to do that because he has to cross the map and sacrifice positioning. But the Ret is probably always going to be in the battle, in the fight, so he's able to easily land Hodges, I'm guessing, on the enemy healer. And ideally, you're going to want to follow it up with a polymorph because the healer won't be able to line of sight that. So I think that's the setup that's the win condition that this Ret Paladin Mage team has, is just coordinating CC with a Hodge into polymorph.
Absolutely. Then you just got to think that the enhancement shaman, he's got a lot riding on him, really, because if he uses his kick before the Hodge and it's on cooldown, the Hodge poly is guaranteed. He's got to save that kick for when that Hodge connects. He's got to make sure he's got it. So choose to use his kick when the Paladin's in a defensive position. When he's pushing in for the Hodge, if his wind shear's on cooldown, he needs to be dropping that Earthbind, keeping him as snared as possible, because he doesn't want his kick to be on cooldown when that Hodge lands, as he's the only one who's going to be able to deny that poly, unless Saku sees it coming and he pre-polys the poly. You've got to really shut down that CC chain one way or another.
Yeah, that's a lot of mage versus mage at 19, is just denying casts with polymorph. If you don't have an arcane torrent or a wind shear to stop the incoming polymorph, I mean, that's your only option for denying it. So it's useful to save at least 1 DR for that situation, just to have something to deny the enemy mage's polymorph cast. But it looks like we're going to be re-queuing in just a second. Again, the priest had some connection issues at the beginning of that game, so we weren't able to play that through. And we're going to be looking to get into a replay of Nagrand Arena.
Well, Moran, we speculated a lot on those 2 compositions and the setups of either team, win conditions. Looking at the compositions alone and not the players, because you don't know the players anyway, so you have to look at just the compositions. Which comp do you think should come out on top?
That's difficult to say, because I think they're pretty even. I think you're trading a Hodge basically for a wind shear. Both the Ret and Enhancement Shaman have a good amount of burst with that Executioner sentence that you talked about earlier, and with the Hot Hand procs. So, I mean, both teams are I think, pretty even, but I think having wind shear is more important and a better utility overall at 19, more flexible. You have more options with that ability. So I think the Enhancement Shaman team should come out on top, but if the Retribution team can just get a lucky string of crits with his Executioner sentence while dumping his damage, I think they definitely have the potential to contest this Enhancement Shaman team's burst.
I think so too. And you also have to remember that the Enhancement Shaman has Ghost Wolf. So even though he's going to be snared up from the enemy mage a lot of the time, I presume he's playing Frost. Was he playing Frost? We didn't actually see the cast go off, so I'm not sure.
I didn't see. Yeah.
He didn't get that far in, but if he is playing Frost, he's not going to be able to. Even if he tries to keep the enhancement slowed, he can always shift into Wolf and still kite and get away or push in at 100% speed. So that's something that the Rep Paladin doesn't have. When he's snared, he's sitting that full duration. So it's going to be a case of kind of like CCing the mage to CC the snare off the Rep Paladin off when he wants to push in, then hodging the priest and swapping the poly over onto it, forcing the nuke target to be the enhancement shaman. As whilst all that's going on, while the mage is sitting in that poly, they're going to want to be throwing some damage out onto someone. So that makes the enhancement shaman the prime target. But with no kicks in the bracket, he could heal through a lot of damage as well. But aligning those Blood Elf silences and War Stomp racials, if they choose to play Tauren, is one way to secure a kill there, I believe.
Yeah, I think actually these mages might even be playing Fire. I think Fire is really good at 19, especially in Arena. You have to play a very specific way, but the reason why Fire is so great is because of this talent called Firestarter, which gives you a 100% chance to crit on targets that are above, I think, 80% HP.
Okay.
So you can get your Pyroblast proc really quickly, really early on, and really easily by swapping targets and just unload on people with a Pyroblast proc. And also as Fire, you have 3 spell schools. You have your Fire spell school, obviously. You have Frost with Frost Nova, and you have Arcane with Polymorph. So if you get interrupted on one thing, you usually have something else to fall back on. And that's, I think, the biggest disadvantage of playing Arcane at level 19 is you only have 1 spell school. So if you get locked on your Polymorph cast, you can't do damage. You can't do anything. I guess you could Frost Nova, but if that's not available, you're just kind of sitting there scratching your head. So I think these mages might even be playing Fire. We'll see what they're playing this matchup, or I'm sorry, in this arena, and so we'll be able to get a better feel for what this game will be like.
I would absolutely love to see Fire Mages. I think that they're such a cool playstyle, being able to move while casting Scorch. It's not something that you tend to see in lower within the case of the whole game right now. Never mind just like lower brackets within the game. So I'd be really excited to see a double Fire Mage mirror. That would make my day. The damage, the steady damage, is typically lower than with a Frost Mage or with an Arcane Mage. But the burst damage is kind of there, like you say, with the Pyros. And as long as the CC chains connect, it's always going to be enough damage to score kills. So I do like it. I hope that we're seeing Fire Mage. I really do.
Yeah. The thing with Scorch is it doesn't do too much damage. You mostly use that to try to get a crit when you're on the move, because critting is all you care about as Fire Mage. Getting that Pyroblast proc and unleashing that. But yeah, Scorch is a really good option to use when you're just running, trying to avoid damage, because you can at least do something offensively, proactively, while you're playing a bit defensively. But it looks like these teams are going in, and at least one of the mages is playing Frost. So Saku is playing that Frost spec. He is throwing out that Blizzard. And it looks like the Polymorph has landed on CXZ. He decides to trinket that, and he's not going to have anything. I think he was trying to get a Hodge on this priest. I don't know if he was able to land that already. But Executioner Sentence goes out as Garito is taking a ton of damage. Might be forced. Okay, he just goes down. I say he might be forced to blink out of there. But I don't know what set up that kill. It didn't seem like much CC landed onto Want to Buy Orc Relent. But yeah, Garatox is taking a ton of damage.
Yeah, I mean, he just got flopped there. I seen the execution sentence coming out, and I was scared for Saku right there. I thought this guy's just going to go down. He's just going to flop there and then, because all he would require is a Polymorph to land at some point of that execution sentence, and that would have been a kill. Trinket into Hodge, easy trade. But no, it was just a complete opposite. I mean, I've seen Blood Fury pop by. I'm baddie. The enhancement shaman just went in so hard and just blew that guy up. So I'm kind of I'm quite happy for Amigos that it panned out that way, because that game was going to end within the space of 5 seconds to either team. I think it would have gone either way.
And just a reminder to everyone watching, mages do not have Ice Block at level 19, so your only defensive option really is Blink, which is a good defensive option, but yeah, he just kind of just died to damage. I don't think there was any CC. There might have been a wind shear, but he wasn't polymorphed. I know that for a fact. He just took the mage just took so much damage, and the priest wasn't able to heal through that, evidently.
Yeah, he really was just able to heal through that. But that's put it up as 1-0 very early on to Amigos here. I think that's going to be some good momentum for them, but at the same time, that's also going to give LFPL 3K the opportunity to kind of counter comp. We don't know nothing about those guys, so they could have a composition that just goes straight up against that and just completely counters it. For all I know, we're not sure the experience they've got within that arena. That was the blind pick, so that could have gone either way. So Amigos have got a really strong spot right here, but at this stage, it's this second game that really counts. That's the one that's going to be to set the pace of this series.
Yeah, but again, winning that first match is huge because even if you lose, you have at least 2 counter picks, or 3 counter picks. 2 or 3. I suck at math right now. Counter picks for stages. I'm sorry, maps available to you, which can be quite huge. But at least winning that first game gives you some momentum, and gives you like a pillow to fall back on just in case you do lose later on. But yeah, the second game is going to be really important too, which is again to keep up that momentum, keep up that confidence for that team to go into the following games in the series. But it looks like we're going to be queuing into Dalaran Arena next, as we're just waiting for these teams to select their comps. And I think Dalaran Arena is a good map for defensively, because it's very difficult for mages to land polymorphs on Dalaran if the healers are positioned behind the boxes. It's a very good defensive position for a healer to be in, and really there's no reason for these priests to push out. There's so much damage going on anyway that the priest, the best thing they can do is just stick behind that box and pump out damage and pump out heals as necessary, and just play defensively throughout this entire throughout the entire matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Dalaran, I do like the map choices when you've got casters that have to hard cast CCs, because I feel like position plays such a huge factor into it. And I think it's just going to be a case of which healer manages to drag the enemy team best, because they're both playing with that ranged caster melee composition. So I think that the enhancement shamans team, which is Amigos, they're going to need to be the aggressors here, because if they go too defensively, that's going to allow both the enemy priest and the rep paladin to push on top of the team that's asking for a CC chain on their healer. So they've got to keep the aggression. So if there's any counter pressure at any point in time, they're going to possibly struggle with position if the shaman lines his healer, for example, or the healer comes out into the open to chase I'm baddie. That could cause a whole open up a whole box of fish that they don't want to go into.
Yeah, and it looks like these teams decided to stick with the exact same comps, which I to be honest, I expect these teams to stay with these comps. I think these are, again, 2 pretty evenly matched teams as far as composition is concerned. But I think this enhancement shaman just brings an additional useful element into the arena with those wind shears that can act as both a defensive option to stop polymorphs and an offensive option to go in for kills and wind shear the priest. But again, I think this matchup is all going to be about landing control on the healer and using those DRs to dump your damage and to force trinkets early on. And so the gates are about to open, and we're going to be following both these teams into the center of the map. It looks like the enhancement shaman team is looking to set up some defensive position behind the box, not too unusual. This red paladin just pushing in, the mage actually pushing in. He's looking to get a polymorph cast, but he gets denied with a wind shear there. And he's taking a ton of damage. Garatox is just spamming that arcane explosion, not really being able to set up much, as he's taking a lot of damage from this enhancement shaman.
Yeah, I'm Daddy. Just noticing right there. I'm Baddie. Sorry, he was just pre-healing all that damage that he was expecting to be incoming as soon as his healer got hit with a CC there. But you can see out of these players, Garatox is the one who's susceptible to the damage that's coming out of Amigos. Just look at his health pool spike up and down with that poly thrown out onto want to buy Art Relentless. I mean, the CC chains are tight. His trinket's down. Saku's got Poly DR coming off in about 12 seconds. Mesmerized, I know he's got Fear available. This game could be closed out very, very soon now, but the Hodge connected out to Mesmerized. Overlap with that Polymorph, though. That's very questionable, and I'm Baddie's taking so much damage here. He's on the run. The Trinket came out, but it wasn't enough, and I'm Baddie goes down. LFPL 3K, they turn the momentum.
You could tell them Mesmerized, there was some hesitation on that trinket. He got full polyed, and he delayed his trinket for about 2 seconds, and that 2 seconds was enough to make I'm Baddie fall so far behind that Mesmerized just couldn't pick him back up. He threw out a shield instantly, but that wasn't enough to to keep his partner alive. And so really good job by this Ret Paladin team landing that CC and making every global count at the end. But again, that hesitation that Mesmerized had was enough to make him fall so far behind that he just couldn't recover.
Yeah, I mean, again, you heard it what I was saying during the game, that it could have gone either way there at that point. I feel like but what actually happened in the end was meant to happen. The setup that was pretty clean. Mesmerized, he did hesitate on that trinket, like you say as well, and that kind of got some downtime at that point. But I'm questioning the reason that I'm baddie. Yes, I'm baddie. Why he went down? I mean, he could have just stood there and off field. He wasn't locked because there was no lockouts available. The bell silence wasn't used by the time he died. He could have stood there and healed, but instead he chose to kite. I mean, execution sentence was down. Yeah, maybe he's just not tracking the holy power coming out of the Ret Paladin. Maybe he was scared of the Templar's verdict hitting him. I'm not sure. But I don't think that if I was him right there, that I would have chose to kite, knowing that Mahia is going to have to tank that CC. Or if he was going to exchange the trinket, it's still worth to off field because it would help him pick up.
Yeah, these hybrid classes
save him.
These hybrid classes bring another dimension to these matchups. Just having an additional way to get healing going while your healer CC'd, and it's really important that you take the most advantage of that, because that's these games, they can end in a blink of an eye, which is exactly what happened. I'm sorry, last game. So this is why you'll see a lot of hybrids in these matchups, because the games can end so quickly. There's so much damage, and there's not many recovery mechanics. So having those off fields is really important as your team. But we're going to be looking to get into the third game here. I believe we're following the standard Blizzard format, where the loser will pick the map, the winner will pick the comp, and then the loser will try to counter comp, or they'll have the second pick on the comp. So I don't know what map would necessarily favor this enhancement shaman team, but I think having an open map, a wide open map, where the healer can't really line of sight and where he can land wind shears easily on both polymorphs and heals is going to be really important. So maybe something we can queue into Tolvaron, right? Oh wait,
no, we can't do Tolvaron.
Oh, we can't. Okay, I'm sorry, my knowledge.
Yeah,
okay,
lesser of knowledge there. But it looks like the map that they're going to choose is Ruins of Lordaeron. Are they allowed to do that? I don't think they're allowed to do that. They just played Ruins of... No, sorry, they played Dalaran, not Ruins, of course.
Yeah.
So yes, Ruins of Lordaeron it's going to be. That's that wide open map that you were talking about Moran. Out of the map choices that we have, which is Grand Arena, Blade's Edge Arena, Dalaran series of Ruins of Lordaeron at this bracket, this is definitely the one to play if you want to go for that open map kind of scenery. That's going to have a big impact on both of the teams, to be honest. It's going to help Amigos defensively because they can drag CXZ out into the open and potentially kite him much better. But at the same time, it's also going to allow Garitox a better opportunity to shut down setups. Easy, no way to line of sight the polymorphs and such onto Want to Buy Out Relent that would come out by Saku. So I don't know. I think that it doesn't massively favor anyone, but I feel like that it's going to help a little bit Team Amigos.
Yeah, I think again having this wide open map space is really important. And it looks like Garitox is taking a ton of damage as Imbaddy just pops his Orc Racial with a full polymorph onto the Holy Paladin. A fear for some reason on the Garitox. Maybe he's trying to deny a polymorph cast, but he does get wind sheared, and CX is just taking that polymorph right now as both teams are just kind of pressuring each other. But Mesmerize into a full poly, and he's not deciding to trinket that. That might be a bad idea, but no, he has the awareness to sit that full, and Imbaddy was taking a ton of damage, and Mesmerize is going to be able, I think, to top him off. And again, both these mages are just looking to control the enemy DPS, as now CX is on full poly DR. So right now, Saku can't stop the damage that's coming out from the Ret Paladin, but Garitox is taking damage, and Imbaddy appear to be the target, and Mesmerize into a full polymorph, which breaks, but he trinkets anyway. It broke, I think, to an Arcane Explosion. He does get put into that full Hodge, as Imbaddy is forced to heal himself in the center of this map.
Yeah, as you can see, Want to Buy Out Relent sat on that full poly right now. Trinket is available, but Garitox is doing a good job, or the best job he can to try and kite that. The blink coming out from him there, sitting on top of Art Relent though, but the kick is available. I don't know whether he should be in that position. That's 3 polymorphs. Is the Hodge going to connect? No. The defensive fear comes out, but Mesmerize is sitting in the CC now. And is Garitox going to survive here? The kick comes out over onto CXX on them off heels, allowing Art Relent to free cast there, managing to get Garitox back up. And it's now their turn to go. The polymorph full connects out onto Mesmerized, and Garitox again, he's taking a lot of damage though. Even while these healers out of CC, the half poly coming out onto Mesmerized there as well. But they're not doing anything with it. What's going on, Moran?
Yeah, right now both these healers don't have trinkets, but Garitox taking a ton of damage from that enhancement charm. As Want to Buy Out Relent gets wind sheared up, he's going to struggle to keep him topped, and he gets full polymorph. So right now, I'm Batty Lol and Sako are looking to go in for the kill. As Want to Buy Out Relent can't get out of this polymorph, Garitox is taking damage. He's deciding to kite, which is perfectly fine. CX throwing out some off heals. He is right now. It looks like they have stabilized, and right now, Mesmerize gets put into a full poly by Garitox, and I'm Batty's going to be under some pressure as he's dipping quite low, and he actually is going to go down without that second polymorph needing to land. So really good job from this Paladin team, just recovering and using that time after they're covered to go on the offensive, landing that full polymorph and just bursting I'm Batty Lol down.
I mean, well played by LFPL 3K. They're coming out hot in these last 2 games. I mean, taking 2 in a row now. Started out with Amigos doing well. But it looks like that it's not going to pan out that way. LFPL 3K, that composition's good. I think they're kind of coming to grips with how it's supposed to be played, at least positionally. Garitox is constantly under a lot of pressure, a complete strenuous time for Art Relent the whole time. But they're managing to get the cells when they need to secure the kills in the games. They've just got to survive long enough for that second Hodge, and they're managing to do that, and they're managing to score the kills because of it. So great play by them.
Yeah, there was a really good triple fear by Garitox's team that really has like saved them, I think, at near the end of that matchup. But again, Garitox was taking a ton of damage. He was able to blink away it safely, which is, again, blink is a very good defensive option at level 19. You can avoid a lot of melee damage. And immediately after they recovered, they just put the pressure back onto I'm Batty Lol, and Mesmerize got put into a full polymorph, and I'm Batty Lol just fell instantly.
Yeah, I mean, it was just good play all around. It was getting to that point in the game where either one of the teams had to win at that point. The healers were just running out of gas at that point in time, defensive-wise, and it was all about who could get the best cell the quickest, and the better team won in that regard there. So
yeah, sometimes level 19 reminds me of like boxing matches where it's it's in the late rounds, and both boxers are incredibly tired, and they're just looking to make use out of any opportunity they get, which is exactly what they did. And good job. They had the stamina, they had the resilience to come back from what would appear to be a losing situation. But again, they just outlasted and outset up the other team. So really good job by them. But we're going to be looking to get into this 4th game soon. And is it the French team that's up right now? I don't remember which team was French.
The French team is the winning team at the moment.
Okay. Yes, I saw someone earlier making some surrender jokes in chats, and bite your tongue, sir. The French are going to take this tournament. But yeah, good job by these teams. And again, you talked about this. We talked about this earlier, but having these hybrids is really important. Because especially against mage teams rely heavily on that polymorph setup, and having those off heals available are really important. Because once your healers run out of the trinket or run out of bubble, if it's a holy paladin, they have very few options. So it's really good to have that hybrid class just spam heals. And so CX and I'm Batty did a really good job of that. And you can tell by their mana. It's kind of harder to tell because enhancement shamans, they have both mana and Maelstrom, but so you can't really see their mana bar all the time. But I could tell that they're off healing a lot, which is really important to do in this matchup, especially when your healer's CC'd. It looks like in this fourth match, we're going to Blade's Edge Arena, and we do have a comp swap here. So interesting choice by this team. Mesmerized and I'm Batty now playing with a Warlock. So I'm wondering the reasoning for that. I think that's a really good comp, but I think I don't know. I don't think the Warlock is the proper choice here. What do you think about that?
I think absolutely that the Warlock's a good choice because you've seen how tanky they are, and looking at the map as well, it's the mage would be trapped either way because if they're fighting at one edge of the arena, there's not a lot of space to play with. That y-axis really complicates things for mages when they have to kind of go defensive, and the mages, they take a lot of damage in this. You know they do. We've seen it. Garatox especially, he was taking so much damage. But I think bringing out the Affliction Warlock's going to give them the ability to dampen a little more. They've seen it be successful in the first round of the tournament, so maybe they've not played it before, but they're trying it out.
I just realized Batty is playing Elemental now, so he's going to have that Thunderstorm as an option. Elemental doesn't do too much damage, but you have a bit of control with that Thunderstorm, with that Wind Shear. So he's pumping out some damage. It's not going to be very much. He's just there kind of for his utility. But right now, I think what Garatox's team should try to do is land a full Polymorph onto Mesmerized and get this game going. But it looks like both teams are kind of starting this matchup pretty slow.
It's going to be a very slow matchup, this one, I believe. Going to be very tanky on Amigos, but the full poly does connect, and Gyarados is taking so much damage here without relenting CC. What is going on? The triple Belf comes out onto Amigos with the full fear as well, and I'm Batty Lol is just healing through that damage. He's going to be absolutely fine as Mesmerized comes out of that CC. The fear going over onto Art Relent, but nothing really comes of it. It's looking pretty stable at this point in time, but I think that it's going to be LFPL's turn to go offensive and Mesmerize the target of choice with no trinket. With the bubble comes out and he's just going to flop there. That was a great swap over onto the healer, recognizing the no trinket with that Hodge available. That was a mistake by Mesmerize. On that position, you do not trinket a poly when there's a Hodge available. I mean, I don't even think he was forced to at that point in time. I'm Batty and Battlecast, they looked pretty stable at that point in time. The burst had come out. I think it was wasted.
CX actually popped his bubble to, I think, go offensively. I mean, he was at 100% HP, popped that bubble to just stay in the fight and not get CC'd. So I think he had an executioner sentence up and he had that Hodge lined up with that bubble, and he's unstoppable at that point. So really good job by CX pushing in off very aggressively to secure the kill.
Yeah, that was a really, really good setup. Like I said, it's going to be such a cluster in that map that must have been the reason for them swapping over to Battlecaster off of that mage. And looking back at it in reflection, I don't think that bringing the mage would have made much difference. I think that they still would have gone down there anyway. So just looking how that game panned out, that trinket would have still come out there. Fears can peel just as well as Poly. So I don't know. I just think that they found the footing. LFPL 3K, they found their footing and they've just gone steamrolling into these games, and they go in there knowing what they need to do and they just do it. There's not messing around, these guys. They've earned their way into the semifinals. Let's take a look at the brackets, though, now, guys. You can see Twink Mentors and LFPL 3K paying cash in the semifinals, but that's not what's going to be coming up next. We're going into the losers round 1, which is going to be Tropic Blunder going up against Amigos. Amigos going 2 series in a row here. It's only early on in the event, so they're not going to be fatigued off of that, going 2 games in a row. Maybe they're going to have some momentum coming off the last lot of series, going straight into more games. They're still warmed up. Possibly Tropic Blunder, they could have gone for a drink, gone for a bit of a refreshment. But this is going to be an interesting composition. Just thinking about Tropic Blunder and what they was playing in the first round going up against Amigos. I mean, if we look at the first round, Amigos in that last series, they was playing the same as what Twink Mentors was, minus the Dispriest at a Holy Power. So Tropic Blunder lost to that. So that enhancement lock is clearly a problem for their main composition choice. So I don't know if they're going to go in there with the same ideology and just try and beat it down with that turbo, Holy Power turbo, or if they're going to look to try and bring out a Resto Shaman turbo, maybe even a Thunder. Maybe they've got a Dispriest there, Dispriest turbo, so they could be a little more defensive with the damage as well when they manage to connect those CCs, because bringing a Fear into that turbo composition, that's going to be huge. Get a double CC on that, and that could be devastating for whoever that comes up against.
Yeah,
this is going to be interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I want to do now is that I want to go into a little bit of break, guys. Moran has a bit of a weak bladder. He needs to go, and he's also one of the teams who's not just ready yet. He's going to need a couple of minutes just to finish off setting some stuff up. So we're just going to dive into a quick break, and that's going to give you guys an opportunity to go and have a break as well. And you're not going to miss out on any of the action. So you guys sit tight, and we'll be back with you as soon as we're ready. Tropic Blunder versus Amigos coming up next, guys. Two teams going hot against each other in the losers round 1. Big Moran, what do we have here? Turbo versus LSD. LSP. What are your thoughts, man? How's this going to go?
Well, I like this turbo setup. I think it's a good option. You do have Mortal Strike, so it is a bit more difficult for this healer to deal with. And again, I think that if they just tunnel the Warlock, it's very difficult for that Warlock to do anything worthwhile. And again, we saw this kind of earlier on, but if they save their shears defensively, it's really good. It's really good to interrupt those drain slow casts. But it looks actually we don't have LSP. We have Elemental Shaman Mage up against this Turbo Cleave. So it's Enhancement Shaman this time against this Turbo Cleave. So I think that Mage is a really good option against this Turbo Cleave. Again, he can land those Frost Novas, land those Polymorphs both defensively and offensively. And it's just going to be up to 20 Big to avoid CC. But again, I'm Badiolol and Saku proven to be able to do a ton of damage. And so once that Polymorph cast lands onto 20 Baked, I mean, he's pretty much forced to either Trinket or Bubble it because I'm Battle just has so much damage. And especially that we haven't really seen too much of this, but Priests and these healers can do a lot of damage if they so choose. So I'm looking to see Sako get that Polymorph and this team go in for the kill early on onto this Turbo Cleave.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that this could be a one-way show right here. This Turbo Cleave, if they connect on Saku without using charge, they can charge that blink and have that win share available for that priest. That's their win condition in my mind. The charge, though, coming out onto Saku before that blink. The Polymorph gets denied there by big time. Whilst he's taking a lot of damage, but 20 Bait can free cast now as he has tanked the CS from I'm Badilol. And big time's in a lot of trouble here. He's throwing out those off heals desperately, but he does go down there in the opening part of the fight. Amigos coming out strong.
Yeah, he was forced to bubble, but that didn't even matter. He wasn't able to keep his partner topped. And really some really good win shares early on by Battle onto 20 Baked, denying some of those early heals. And they use those win shares again to get so much pressure rolling. They didn't even need CC with Polymorphs onto I'm Baked. They're just going off of those win shares. So really good job by the Enhancement Shaman, proving to be a very useful tool in these games. But that enhancement, that Turbo Cleave didn't really have much time to get anything going. They're just kind of always on the back foot, and the Mage just kind of had free reign. He wasn't really under too much pressure. He's just kind of casting out damage. Didn't even really need to polymorph the healer again. And yeah, some really good win shares coming out from the Enhancement Shaman to deny those Holy Paladin casts. And even through Bubble, he wasn't able to keep his partners topped. So really good job, establishing pressure early on to that game. So that was a very quick. I wasn't expecting the game to be that quick. And yeah, that Turbo Cleave is they need to make some adjustments. I don't know what that's going to consist of, but yeah, they need to do something a bit differently if they expect to pull out this win against this Mage team.
The big mistake was it wasn't just running that Holy Paladin; it's where it was positioned. The Holy Paladin pushed in really early on into the game on his mount, and that left him susceptible to both the Polymorph and the Wind Shear. That Wind Shear's only got a 20-yard range. If he just stayed a little further back and just kind of PV heal from further away, he could have potentially ranged the Mage and saved the Wind Shear for the Polymorph if he does try to blink Poly, and then he could have fell back a little more and continued to heal from a pillar. But I think that he was too focused on trying to connect that Hodge over at the right time, always wanting to be in the position when his team needed it, that he gave the game up in the opener. If he's going to go like that and they're going to use Blood Fury and go that hard in the opener, they need to bubble in the opener and make sure he runs in and gets that Hodge. If he doesn't get that Hodge, his position is completely contradictory, and that will just throw the game. And he did in that instance. I think the Paladin is not necessarily the best choice. Maybe a Resto Shaman would be, or possibly a Disc Priest as well. Disc Priests are pretty solid. Having double shear to shut down a Mage, I think would be so good. 20 Bake's main twink is a Resto Shaman, and he's choosing not to use it. I'm unsure about that. Maybe they've not really talked it through, but I think that Resto Shaman would be the better choice.
Yeah, and Resto Shamans actually do quite a bit of damage. I think they do a lot of damage. I kind of just said that, but if they have Lava Burst, I think they have Lava Burst.
Yes, they do, but the cast time is like 10 seconds or something. But yeah, okay.
They can do some decent damage. But yeah, that Holy Paladin is really limited, and I actually like that idea of just popping your bubble offensively to go for that Hodge, because you need some sort of setup to establish any sort of pressure against his mage team, or else he's just gonna free cast polymorphs to deny your pressure. And so using that bubble offensively to push in is, I think, pretty important. And so far we've seen very few healer swaps. We did see a healer swap in the last series to end the series actually, but these healers have remained pretty untouched throughout these games. So I think if Tony Bake decides that he wants to end the game himself, I think using that bubble to get that Hodge is quite key to his team establishing any pressure.
I think so too. Team Amigos won over Tropic Blunder. The gates are open. The compositions are unchanged. The charge comes out onto I'm Baddie. A lot of damage. It should come into on to him right now. The early Hodge comes out, not using the bubble as well. This is a great opener, but no damage does come off of it, unfortunately, because Saku doing an amazing job shutting down that go with the polymorphs there on the Frost Nova. So great job. He's not got that Frost Nova for another 15 seconds, but big time taking so much damage. 20 Bake relentlessly trying to throw out those flash heals, getting denied though, locked into a full poly. He has to bubble. Big time is healing himself. He might survive. Great job there by 20 Baked and Big Time by healing him up, bringing him back into a place where he can fight. 30 seconds left till the next Hodge. Can these guys live it out?
Yeah, Saku, if he lands a polymorph on a 20 Bake, it's going to be a really big issue because 20 Bake doesn't have that bubble or trinket available. But Saku taking a lot of damage from this Enhancement Shaman team, as they are kind of denying the opportunity for Saku to push in for that polymorph cast. But 20 Bake gets wind sheared Big Time, forced to go behind the pillar and heal himself. But this Enhancement Shaman, I'm Baddie just charging in. And I think right now, this Turbo Cleave's on the back foot for sure. They're forced to play defensively, all standing behind that box. But right now, you can see Saku's just putting that Blizzard down, and that's kind of a lot of pressure. People underestimate the damage that Blizzard does, but it's doing AoE damage to the entire team, and it's difficult for 20 Big to keep 2 people on his team topped.
There is a little problem right now, though, because the trinket wasn't caught out or mesmerized in the opener. They're trying to buy the timeout until Hodge comes up, but there's no trinket or bubble on 20 Bake. So even if he does get the Hodge, he will get trinket feared into a full CC chain. So his team are going to be in a lot of trouble at this point. They have to play defensive. 20 Bake is the target of choice. Getting railed right now. Fake casting that heal. Might be able to keep himself aligned with the off heals from Big Time, and then managing to stabilize here. Amigos have got them cornered, but the charge comes out onto Mesmerize. The poly straight over onto the Hoff there. It doesn't look like Big Time's going to be able to connect. He needs to come back to the pillar. The war stomp onto Saku. Flash heals coming out before the poly connects. The wind shear denying that polymorph. Big Time's back at the pillar, but Saku's taking damage now with the DR war stomp there as well, blinking out of there, denying that polymorph chain onto 20 Bake. Great job by Tropic Blunder, keeping themselves in this game for another bit longer.
Yeah, really good job denying that polymorph cast. And Saku actually dipped relatively low. I'm surprised he didn't die there, but he was struggling to land a poly. But actually, finally lands a poly, but it breaks instantly to that Blizzard. So a bit of a misplay by Saku. It looks like I'm Baddie is just kind of trying to poke as much damage as he can. 20 Bake is dipping a bit low, but he's easily able to top himself off as no interrupts are available. But again, that Blizzard just doing so much damage. It's going to cleave this team down, and mana's not going to be an issue, it seems, throughout this game. But if any polymorph cast lands, or if a wind shear is able to land on 20 Bake's cast, his team's kind of going to be in a lot of trouble. I'm Bake gets full Hodged, no trinket available. He's taking a ton of damage, but Mesmerize is able to just channel those heals without any interrupts landing on him. And so I'm Baddie just going to be kiting back here as a full polymorph lands onto the Hoff.
The Hoff, yeah, has been hit by that polymorph. You are right. 20 Bake, though, his trinket's coming up in 14 seconds. He's bided enough time for that to come up. He can go in with that Hodge and make that trade if they can get some kind of connection coming onto Saku. They have to be able to hit Saku on this go, because the poly peels will be all too much with the Warrior not having his trinket for 23 seconds. It looks like the go is now. The shear coming out over onto Saku here. 20 Bakes isn't pushing in with the squad right now. He's happy sitting on his trinket. A lot of damage coming out onto I'm Baddie now. The swaps come over. Big Time in trouble here too. Healing Surge is being thrown out there. Poly onto 20 Bake, instantly trinketed there. That's really unfortunate that poly managed to land, but the double war stomp connecting on out to the DPS on Team Amigos. A lot of pressure is coming out either way on these teams, spiking up and down.
Yeah, and Battlewell was forced to heal Saku for a bit, and Saku's taking a ton of damage. He might need to blink out. He does use that Frost Nova, and that Blizzard is going to deny some casts. But 20 Baked does get wind sheared, and Rage Time just dips down, but he's out of line of sight of 20 Baked. That was a positioning mistake. Gets full polymorph now. Rage Time surely will go down. Gets wind sheared on his own heal, and full fear lands on a 20 Baked. So really good job. A bit of a positioning mistake by Big Time jumping down. He was line of sighting 20 Baked for a while, and 20 Baked had to reposition, and in the process of repositioning, Saku was able to land that full polymorph, and they were just able to win shear Big Time on his cast. So really good job by this Mage Enhancement Shaman team, kind of capitalizing on a positioning mistake made by Big Time.
Oh, I'm so gutted for Team Tropic Blunder. I mean, I'm rooting for these guys. I like this composition, playing with all of the unconventionals, playing that turbo comp with a Holy Paladin against a Mage. I dig it. I absolutely love the fact they're just going to cue that into it. And they was playing it so well, but that fallback there by Big Time was so bad. I mean, 20 Baked, there must have been a lack of communication there, because that position just threw the game completely. There was going to be a lot of pressure, but I do feel like that 20 Bait may have been able to heal through it if the position was better. Fell back towards the box maybe. Whilst the Mage was casting that poly, he would have been able to line the upcoming damage. But I mean, I'm rooting for them guys. But they're not out of this event just yet. Their tournament lives is on the line as it's 2-0 to Team Amigos. Tropic Blunder need to pull out a couple of wins now to keep themselves in this tournament. Amigos sitting on their throne right now in a very comfortable position to push themselves the way through the lower bracket.
Yeah, and again, they're forced to play defensive the majority of that matchup, and Saku was able to capitalize on that by just casting that Blizzard behind those boxes. And the game didn't become a mana issue. The game wasn't a mana game whatsoever, but it easily could have been if they would have drawn that out and just stayed behind the boxes. But yeah, there's not much that Saku's team can do when that team decides to play defensive behind the boxes. I would have liked to see Mesmerize kind of push in maybe for a triple fear when that was happening. He was for some reason just kind of sitting in the back, but if he was able to just push in for that fear, he at least could have forced them to move away from the boxes or something. So I don't know. I'd like to see a bit more aggression from Mesmerize, because I think he could have ended that game much sooner when I'm Baked didn't have his trinket or bubble available. But right now, Tropic Blunder is facing elimination, as they need to kind of think of something creative to get themselves through this lower bracket, as they are down 0-2.
Yeah, I'm rooting for those guys. I really want them to at least pull a game out of this. I mean, I like the composition. All for it. But right now, Tropic Blunder, they're taking a little bit of technical break right now, because apparently there was a couple of issues with some macros in game on one of the players on the team. So he wants to rectify that before going into the potential last game of this series. I hope that they can pull one back to extend the length of this series. I'd also like to see some composition changes as well. Like I was saying earlier, I'd like to see Resto Shaman. Double win share, Earthbind ×2 as well. I think that's really going to help them, like keeping time on target and also breaking off as well. Double Ghost Wolf. I think that it's going to be very, very easy to kite that Mage's Polymorph, seeing as though that Shimmer's not in the bracket. You can't blink poly. So you can poly into blink, but then he can shear it, or he can run loss. He's got time. The only thing that would be scary is blink Frost Nova onto the healer, because then he can't kite it. He's got to not get faked to even maybe bide enough time until that poly would land. But yeah, I'd like to see the Resto Shaman. I really would.
Yeah, Frost Nova is a really good ability at 19 for landing polymorph casts, exactly how you described. I know in my experience playing mages, what I used to do is, say I was playing against a Resto Shaman, I used to just blink in Frost Nova and then Arcane Torrent on top of that to land the polymorph cast. And there's no way for the healer to avoid that. Just because they're Nova'd, so they can't line of sight it, and they're Torrented, so they can't shear it. So, that option. But it looks like Saku is saving his Frost Nova mainly defensively, because Turbo Cleave, if left to play, it can do a lot of damage. But I really like having those Blizzards down in the middle of the map too. Keeping Blizzard up, again, it does a lot of cleave damage. People really underestimate how much damage it does. I'm going to toot my own horn here, but I was playing pre-mades recently as a Frost Mage, and Frost Mages aren't used that much in pre-mades, but I was able to top damage as a Frost Mage by just keeping my Blizzard rolling on as many people as possible, and it's a really good zoning tool because when it's down, it's very difficult for DPS to pass through it because they're slowed, and so it slows the game down both literally and figuratively, and it's just really good for zoning these melee from connecting onto a target.
Yeah, I'd just like to correct something I was saying before. I've just had a look now at the official thread, and it does say that class stacking is banned. I was under the impression it was spec stacking, not class stacking, so that's my bad. The Resto Shaman is not going to be able to be played. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe they should bring out a Brewmaster Monk and go Resto Shaman. I don't know. It would help.
I think Brewmasters are pretty good. I think they seem to do a decent amount of damage. They're relatively tanky. So I like that. If they were to play Brewmaster, that would be an interesting choice. But I think both these teams will be sticking to their guns. Mesmerize playing again with I'm Badilol and Saku, playing that Mage Enhancement Shaman team. It looks like actually we're going to restart this game. Might have been an issue here. But yeah, I expect both teams to kind of stick with their guns at this point. But if Tropic Thunder wanted to do anything dramatic, now would be the time to do it. They are facing an elimination 0-2 right now, so a comp swap might be exactly what they need to
I think it's one way to keep this spiced up, right? I think that swapping comps, it's not working for them right now. Although they can play quite well, the way that they've been playing it, they've not had any form of success at many points. Definitely not enough points to be able to kind of convince themselves that this is the comp that we've got to use to win. I think now's the time where they should try and pull something out maybe a little crazy. The Mage Lock, for example, I mean, that's just a control comp, right? Play that with a Priest, you're going somewhere. If they don't, then, that's their pick and choosing. But I feel like that's definitely one of the things that they should try to consider doing, swapping it up.
But yeah, both these teams actually just sticking to their guns, and I like that, at least Mesmerize team, but big time 20 Baked and the Hoff. I mean, they haven't found any success with this Turbo Cleave at this point, but I don't know, maybe they don't have that many options for comps they could play. I'm not sure. But this is going to be a very scary map for 20 Baked. He's going to really have to position himself well because Ruins of Lordran is kind of an awkward map. I mean, just speaking from my own experience as a healer, it's a very difficult map to play as a healer, especially when you're trying to line of sight cast. I mean, you have some options with the tomb in the center and the little graveyard off to the side, but other than that, when the game is being played in the middle of the map, it's very difficult to find a really good position. So 20 Baked, you're just going to have to avoid as much CC as possible. And again, Saku, he seems to be the crux of this matchup as both these teams go into the early stages of this fight.
But the early Blizzard coming out from Saku, though, onto the Elemental. Is he Elemental now? It looks like he's playing Elemental, but the Hoff's taking a lot of damage, but he should be able to stabilize with both of those healers off healing at this stage. I think that he's choosing to play Elemental. I'm not sure yet, though. I can see, I can tell he's not pushing in. Definitely, he's going to be playing Elemental there. I can see the shield on his back. So they're choosing to play Holy Pal of Thunder right now. What that changes up is that they've got Thunder Shot. Yeah, it's got Thunder Shot, right? So they
Thunderstorm.
Thunderstorm, yeah, that's the one. They can. I think I'm Pikachu, man. Thundershock, hello. So yeah, they've got Thunderstorm. That will really, really help them out when I'm Bad is trying to connect when they've got CC onto 20 Baked. That's going to be a really good utility. It allows him to be able to do damage from range so that he doesn't have to get stuck into a position that's going to cause him a lot of problems. Hence why the target of choice is the Hoff. But the Wind Shears come onto 20 Baked. The Trinket comes out from big time here to off field. So that's no Trinket on either of the players from Tropic Blunder. The big time, no Trinket. 20 Bakes bubbling now as well. The Hoff's going to be in a lot of trouble the next time Poys off the R on 20 Bakes. And as you can see at the back there, you've got Mesmerize on that Priest. He's just PV'ing at the back there. He knows that he's so safe. That Elemental Shaman really needs to push up a little bit there. Whilst trying to kite I'm Badilol, he needs to push up a little bit to be some kind of threat to that Priest. Because at this point in time, if he's just going to free cast, they're never going to be able to get pressure. But we'll see how it pans out. The Wind Shear connecting over onto Saku here on that go. The Frostbolt's just being thrown out there onto the Hoff. He's taking a lot of damage here. Mesmerize having Trinket. 20 Bake's just been locked. Looks like he's a bit stable right now.
And this is the situation where I think Mesmerize should just push in. There's really no reason not to. Saku getting full Hodge. He's looking to land a Polymorph cast on 20 Bict. If a Polymorph cast does land, it's going to be trouble. He does get wind sheared up. Maybe a Polymorph cast will follow that. Yes, a Polymorph does land onto 20 Bict, and the Hoff is going to be taking a ton of damage as Big Time is just forced to throw out those heals. It looks like the Polymorph will land, so the Hoff's taking so much damage, there's nothing really he can do. I think this is going to be the game. 20 Bict needs to desperately top his partner back up, but he's not going to be able to, especially since a wind shear was available. So it looks like Amigos is easily taking this game despite the comp swap. So, I'm Bowdy Saku, proving that this Enhancement Shaman Mage team is quite powerful, especially when they land those Polymorph casts. They can just, easily close out a game. So, well played by both teams. And unfortunately, that means that Tropic Blunder is going to fall in this tournament, and they are going to be eliminated, and Amigos will be advancing, and we're going to be going into Twink Mentos versus LFPL 3K parentheses playing cash close parentheses. So yeah, that's it is a mouthful. I don't know what that means. I think it's some sort of RuneScape thing.
Is that a US thing? Parentheses? I know that as brackets where I'm from. But anyway, you are right. That's going to mean that Tropic Blunder is knocked out of this event.
Oh,
really sorry to see that, guys. I was rooting for you. But Amigos, Mui, I love Mui. He's a great guy too. So I'm happy for Mui, but I'm really sad for you guys, Tropic Blunder. I'm sorry about it. Thanks very much for participating, guys. You put on a good show. I was rooting for you, like I said. But we're going to be going into the semi-finals now. This is going to be, of the winners bracket, might I add, this is going to be Twink Mentors going up against LFPL 3K. Both of these teams coming out really, really hot in their retrospective series before now. How's this going to pan out going up against each other? Moran, can you kind of recap on what these teams' compositions have been playing? And who do you think?
I think Twink Mentors was playing Affliction, Enhancement Shaman, and Holy Pally, I believe. And LFPL, they did play Ret Paladin Mage. So I think that's a pretty even matchup. Again, I don't really know who has the advantage here. It's very difficult to say. But I did like the plays with that Executioner sentence and then swapping to healer. I think more of these teams should be looking to get healer kills when possible. Yeah, and then whoever loses that will be playing Amigos, and whoever wins that will be advancing to the grand finals. So this is a really important matchup for both these teams, securing their spot in the grand finals. And again, Twink Mentors, they were playing that Affliction Warlock Enhancement Shaman team, which can do a lot of burst damage, especially if the Warlock's able to cast those UAs and channel that Drain Soul. But at the same time, LFPL just has that Ret Paladin damage and that Ret Paladin control with that Hodge. So it looks like we're going to be going immediately into the series. No hesitation. Really good job by these teams, being on the ball, ready to go into this next matchup. But yeah, it looks like we are going to have, again, that LSP versus that Ret Paladin Mage. So pretty standard comp picks from both these teams in this tournament, proving that they can be competitive with these comps.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the compositions that I know some of these teams can run. Twink Mentors, they have so many tier 1 comps under their arsenal. They have RMP with Raz on Priest. They have Magelock Priest, Magelock Paladin. They have Roguelock Paladin. They have the comp that they're playing now. They're playing, I believe that's Enhanced Affliction Paladin and Enhanced Affliction Priest. There's so many different compositions that they can play very, very effectively and fluently. These guys are very experienced within this bracket. So I think that any kind of composition that they come out with that they feel is going to be a counter comp, we should see a victory come off of the back of that. But LFPL, I mean, these guys have proven themselves to do quite well so far in this event. They went 3-1 in their previous series. That's quite a convincing victory, if you ask me. The gates are open. Moran, take it away.
Yeah, it looks like the Enhancement Shaman team is charging in, trying to establish some early pressure. And CX is the CX's team is forced just behind the pillar. They're kind of trying to establish some position early on. And Best World is going to be full polymorphed, as now they're choosing the opportunity to cross the map and reposition themselves offensively. And both these teams just doing very minimal damage early on into this matchup. Kind of expected. Right now, Best World is channeling those UAs. He's going to certainly get a Drain Soul cast here. chooses not to for some reason. He had the UAs out, but Gyaradox is taking a decent amount of damage. Best World deciding to trinket that polymorph, trying to get some fears out on the CX. Again, I think their win condition is landing those UAs and channeling that Drain Soul. But he's unable to do that right now as his team is playing very defensively. So both teams not really committing to much right now.
That's the wind shear faked out there by Gyarados. Great job by him. That's going to allow them to push in and get some CC onto Raz if they choose to. All they got to do is line it up. The execution sentence comes out. The Bell's denying the fear. The Hodge connects over onto Raz, forcing that trinket as it was in line of Gyarados. But Best World taking a lot of damage right here. Raz is not holding his bubble there. He bells Gyarados on that repoly. Great job there, managing to top Best World up. But Gyarados is under a lot of sustained pressure right here. Relent has got his work cut out for him. He stood in the middle of that map whilst getting hit by all of these CCs.
Yeah, and that the Best World spiked in damage a lot, and that's because of the executioner sentence you're talking about. He was able to line up there. He was able to line up burst perfectly with that executioner sentence. And right now, CX is being full feared into a full Hodge. So right now, this mage team is just looking to try to secure some pressure. Best World getting put into a full polymorph. Bianco appears to be the target of choice. If Raz gets CC'd, it could be some issues. He does have that bubble to fall back on. But right now, both these teams taking it pretty slow. As Orcalanus actually does get full feared. Gyarados taking a decent amount of damage. He is spamming that Arcane Explosion. Does decide to blink out, so he should be safe at this point with Frost Nova landing onto Bianco.
The fear peels there was pretty slow by Best World. If he'd have landed that fear before CXZ got the off heals onto Gyarados, the dots could have probably killed him right there, but he didn't. So he's going to be fine for now. Relent getting hit up by that shear. The polymorph is trying to get thrown out there onto Bianco, trying to slow down some of that incoming damage while he goes to that fear, trying to land that Frost Nova into Poly, but the Hodge connects. He's only got bubble as a break. He's got to get this polymorph, and he's got to bubble it. He's got to bubble the DR Poly. A lot of damage is coming out now, though. The execution sentence connects onto Best World, but they're doing nothing about it. The repoly is probably going to get off there as well. Best World sitting at full HP from that off heals from Bianco, and he's self-healing there, holding Raz's bubble. That is huge at this stage in the game, because as you can see, Relent has no trinket. When the fear connects, which it does, that's going to mean that Gyarados will be in a lot of trouble. He's got to run. The polymorph DR coming onto Bianco. The Hodge also over onto Relent there as well. Great job by Raz pushing in over that, messing up the DR onto Raz as well, so he's fully poly-DR'd. Gyarados is running for his life right now, but it looks like that they might be able to stabilize with that positioning.
Yeah, really good job by Gyarados is blinking out to safety. And right now, both these teams are kind of resetting this matchup, and it's kind of a tense situation for both these teams, as I think Hodge is back up for CXX. So he has been using that Hodge onto Raz at the same time he's been using the Executioner sentence. So it looks like that might be what they're trying to do. Full wind shear actually lands onto Orcalant. Gyarados actually goes down in that. So again, game ending during a 1 second lockout on a healer. Gyarados was pushed in a bit. They're looking to get something going with that Hodge setup potentially, but it was just denied through raw damage and a wind shear by this LSP team.
That was phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen what went on there, but Best World lined up his UA stacks with a proc from Bianco there. So Bianco, they must have said, right guys, we've got to just go in full ham, got to go full shards, full UA spam, and hot hand, and just go in hard. And they did. They just flopped Gyarados. That wind shear literally ended the game. And at no other point in this whole event has that happened, where they've lined that up so well and done that much damage in the space of a lockout. So that means it's definitely possible for that composition to pull out that. Maybe they'll look to do that earlier on more often, to catch trinkets where they wouldn't expect to catch trinkets sooner. I think that Best World kind of changes up the way that he's choosing to apply his fears onto the targets. That he'll be able to create openings for himself where Relent's going to be forced to tank those fears. Whereas right now, I mean, I can't see some kind of definitive scripted way as to how he's using his fears. It doesn't feel like there's any kind of setup going on. I feel like they're just trying to use the raw rock pressure and just waiting for DR to be off on the healer and trying to just run into a position to get that fear. Whereas kind of using the fears to create an opening for him to get into that position, to get in between Gyarados, CXZ, and Relent. I think that will be able to game ending way sooner than it is at the moment.
Yeah. Really good job though by Bianco's team just kind of avoiding or playing through those executioner sentence setups. Every time that happened, Bessroll just dipped so much in HP. So yeah, that setup is quite scary, and it looks like that they're lining it up with the Hodge onto the healers. So Raz is getting put into a full Hodge, and Bessroll getting executioner sentence was was a lot of pressure at times, and Bessroll almost died early on in that game. But Best World is not able to do that much damage. I mean, I haven't really seen any scary Drain Soul setups. But again, he has to deal with that wind shear. But if that wind shear is out of the question, that's his time to kind of just pull the trigger and go ham with his Soul Shards. But both these teams decided to play very defensively. We're going to be going into the second game relatively soon here. It looks like the team of LFPL has selected Dalaran Sewers as the first counter pick, and I think that's been the counter pick almost every single time for the first game is Dalaran Sewers, and it's kind of understandable. I mean, it is a relatively neutral map in this map selection that we have. I mean, the only other options we have are Runes of Lordaeron and Blades Edge Arena, and both those maps are they're relatively difficult to play on from most teams. So Dalaran is kind of a safe option, especially if you want to line of sight those CC casts from these caster players. So right now, LFPL needs to figure something out, as it seems like the raw damage from Bianco's team is too much for Wanted by Orcolent to deal with.
Yeah, I can completely see that. I mean, the damage is very, very high, but Dalaran, picking this Dalaran, it brings in some extra variables that you don't get on other maps, and that's that random waterfall that comes up in the center. If they can even time that, or even get lucky with the time that procs as they get CC out onto Raz, then that could just be a free bubble there and then. If, let's say, Best World or Bianco, if that's their target, is on the opposite side of that because it's their go, they could very easily swap that around. I think it'd be interesting to see if they can actually utilize that, if it's going to play into their favor for LFPL 3K, or if it's going to go against them. But we're about to find out. These guys are engaging already. Bianco's pushing in really deep here, and you can see Raz's position. He's pretty much 35 yards away right now. He's as far as max range can go because he knows that that's his safe haven. He needs to kind of hang out back there. But the execution sentence come onto Bianco, and they see the waterfalls come out. As the execution sentence comes, Bianco's in a lot of trouble. There it is. The burst comes out. The holy shot connects there. Bianco manages to get away by dropping that Earthbind totem. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That timing on the execution sentence there with position, that is a possible kill condition for LFPL 3K. I don't know if that was just sheer coincidence, but I feel like that they can even idolize that and keep playing around that, baiting them into a position, let them think they're getting the go, and just kind of give them when they're out of position.
Yeah, Bianco taking a ton of damage, and right now Best World was able to channel a UA cast. I'm not able to get any CC going out onto Wanted by Orcolent. But right now, Bianco has to be a bit worried, and so does Raz, because the next Hodge Executioner setup is going to be quite scary for this team. I like the target selection of Bianco. I mean, he is pretty tanky, but when they're on him like that, he's always forced to push into the team and do his damage from melee range. So when they can punish him by just turning it around and doing damage with that executioner sentence and a full Hodge onto the healer. But right now, both teams not really wanting to commit much. Wanted by Orcolent does have, everyone on LFPL's team has that trinket available, so they're in a really safe position, as Twink Mentors has nothing available in terms of trinkets. So if this mage is able to capitalize on that and land a full poly, it's going to be quite scary.
Here it is. The damage is coming. The execution sentence goes off. It does minimal damage, though. Relent's looking to get a fear out of that polymorph onto Best World. With his position being so far in the open, is he going to push onto Raz's pillar for that fear? The Hodge does come out. Trinket into a full fear. Well lined up there by Twink Mentors. Is this going to be their momentum shift? The full fear is still sitting onto Relent. Gary Tox looks like he's going to be fine, though, with that Blood Elf Silence coming out, shutting down those flash heals. Maybe this is such a good position for Relent to be in right now. If he still has his sphere available, he does. He lands it. The triple fear comes out. A lot of damage is coming out here now. Onto CXZ, also onto Bianco. The Hodge does connect there as well over onto Raz. Overlaps with that poly. That's a bit of a mistake there. That could cost them that go. I mean, Raz broke out of that as well, and this is just a cluster right now. Bianco's trying to keep himself alive. CXZ still got his bubble though, and he knows that the full fear they want to art relent. Gary Tok's in a lot of trouble, but he does flop. The overcommitment there, too much aggression by LFPL 3K. I don't know why they stayed in for so long. They got so much by pushing in at that point in time. They could have dropped back and just waited to go again, but they didn't. They chose to stay in, and Twink Mentors capitalized on that, managing to score that kill.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I'm sorry, Best World had a really good play that game. The full Hodge landed onto Wanted by Orca Light, which he trinketed instantly, and then that was followed up by a full duration fear from Best World. So the mind games, the outplaying really happened there really quick. As his trinket was instantly countered by a full fear. But yeah, Mesmerize tried to play offensively there, which I respect tremendously. I think these priests have. It seems like they're. I'm sorry, Wanted by Orca Lion. These priests have been playing relatively conservatively and not really utilizing that fear option that they have. And fear is a really powerful tool. I mean, it's an AoE CC. It breaks on damage, but the damage threshold is high enough that it can be used to at least set up a polymorph cast or something to follow up on. So I think that's going to be the strategy for these priest mage teams. I think looking forward is because these mages they're struggling to land polymorph cast on the enemy healer. So if they can set it up first with a full AoE fear, that can fear the healer into a position where he can be polymorphed and reduce the chances that it gets denied by a wind shear or some sort of interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They've got to do a little better with the setups. But before we get into that, guys, I just want to take a short break here. One of the teams needs a little bit of tactical time. Sorry, they're talking tactics, stuff like that. They've asked for a couple minutes. So in the meantime, we're going to dive into a quick interval here as well. Go grab yourself a coffee or something, guys. We'll be back really soon. Hey guys, we're back, and it is the Xpoff League 19 Spring Tournament brought to you by me and Big Moran. So excited to get into this next game, guys. We're in the semifinals right now. It's 2-0 to Twink Mentors against LFPL 3K. Convincing wins this far. Best of 5 series. LFPL 3K, if they lose this next game, they're going to be forced down into the losers bracket, going up against Amigos to fight for their tournament life. Let's see if that's going to happen, or if they can bring this back and send Twink Mentors back down into these lower brackets. Moran, so far, this has been quite a good series. Even though it seemed a little one-sided in regards to the outcomes of it, I think it's been pretty exciting. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, right now I don't think the score of the series kind of reflects how competitive this series has been. It's been a tooth and nail fight for both these teams. As Twink Mentors had some moments where the Bianco is dipping really low, and so they easily could have lost if if LFPL got a lucky string of crits or something. So right now, I mean, Twink Mentors, even though they're up comfortably 2-0 right now, they still need to be playing exceptionally well, as they've almost lost both of these games. But it looks like we're going to be going into Blades Edge Arena, which I think is a pretty good map choice for this mage team. Oh,
wait a minute before you go there. Wait a minute before you go there. Let's wait for everyone to be able to see this before we say this. This is going to be interesting.
As a spoiler to my fans,
excited about the team composition right now.
Yeah.
What's being spoke about is this PHP composition that's coming out of LFPL 3K. I mean, these guys, they've swapped it up. They're just going all out with this. I mean, this is the CC God comp. I mean, anyone who's played any amount of endgame knows that the CC change you can sit in with this comp is ridiculous. The only difference being the Hodge is a 1-minute cooldown and not around 30 seconds. I mean, they brought in nature as well upon that warlock there, which is quite interesting. But wait, is nature on their roster? Question mark?
And we had I'm not sure, but in any case, some noobs will be slain in this series for sure, as we have a hunter coming into the mix-up, and we're going to be looking to see a full Hodge land onto Raz with a trap to follow, and if not, Wanted by Bullrush can land traps quite easily with conch shots onto Raz. So right now, this hunter just pushing in, and it looks like CX is pushing in as well, trying to land the Hodge surely onto Rax. Full trap actually lands. I don't know, that was off of nothing, and Bianco right now is taking a ton of damage, forced to pull back. CX getting put into a full fear. It looks like this I guess you would call it a Cupid cleave is establishing some pressure early on. Luckily, Raz needed Trinket, but Bianco's still taking a ton of damage, as he is going to get Executioner sentence. Meanwhile, a full shear lands onto Garitos. So Wanted by Bullrush took a bit of damage there, but it looks like both teams are able to recover. CX right now taking a bit of damage in the center of the map. This might be his bubble, but he's able to cast those heals on himself. Next full trap that lands on a Raz will be scaring. As I say that, full trap lands, Bianca is going to be the target of choice, as he does decide to drop down. I like that positioning choice from him. Executioner Sentence does land, does a lot of damage. Arcane Torrent to follow that up. Right now, Raz is going to be full feared. He's going to surely need to bubble this. Bubbles it instantly. He is going to be topping Bianco back up.
I'd just like to point out that Garitos is playing that Schism talent as well for that extra damage, but a lot of trouble now. No Trinket, full fit over onto Garitos. Are they going to get the read there as well? No, they don't. The Bell Silence comes out and denies that there. CXZ is going to be okay. Hodge due to come up in about 20 seconds. Trap is also available. Raz has nothing he can trade off of that. The trap does come out there, but it does miss. Raz knows where that trap is as well. That's going to buy him some time to get his team aggressive. Whilst Wanted by Bullrush, he's taking a lot of damage on the shear. He didn't shield, and Bullrush goes down. I'm so sad by that. There's so much potential. That composition, I think that composition counts as Twink Mentors composition. Not gonna lie, I think it does at this level, and they lost with it due to a mistake. I feel like,
yeah, that missed trap, that trap could have easily ended the game, but right now Twink Mentors is going to advance into the finals of this tournament, and the LFPL is going to get a rematch against Amigos, who they beat early on in this tournament 3-1. So LFPL not out of the woods yet, and unfortunately they do get sent to that lower bracket, and right now Twink Mentor is sitting comfortably in the grand finals as they wait to play either LFPL or Amigos. And if things go as they did early on in this tournament, we're going to see a rematch of this exact same series for the grand finals. But you know, I don't want to count Amigos out yet. They do seem to be a pretty good team. LFPL, I like that comp decision, playing that Cupid Cleave. Again, I think that missed trap was huge. If they would have landed that trap, Raz had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with that.
I just think, like, I don't want to talk about it because it's not the next up and coming series, but if we see that again in the grand finals, I think that they should lead with that composition. I feel like they just brought it out, just knocked some of the dust off of it, and they did quite well. How quickly they were cycling through Raz's defensive cooldowns and the positioning they were forcing Twink Mentis to be put into. I mean, that could have gone either way. I think the problem was the map choice. Blade's Edge is not typically a good map for PHP, all in all, especially at this level where the Paladin doesn't have Divine Steed, for example, and stuff like that. I feel like it's going to be really hard for them to connect and line things up accordingly. So on a more open map, maybe something like the Grand, even Dalaran and Lordran, all the other maps are just better than Blaze Edge for them. So it's a shame that they went out on that, but that map could just be their weakness. I mean, I'd like to see them play that again if they make it to the grand final. Maybe they'll play it again now as they're going up against Amigos right away, back-to-back games for LFPL 3K, the French team, doing a great job so far in this tournament. Sad to see them go down to the losers bracket, but Twink Mentors has earned their place in the grand finals.
Yeah, certainly. And you asked me early on who I expect to do well. I said, well, Raz and Yanku, those are excellent players, and they're playing, I think, a pretty good comp. I mean, I think having that Hellstone is a really good tool. Hellstone's a very underrated team utility, in my opinion. Not many people tend to value Hellstone as highly as I think they should. I mean, it is like a 25% heal for you, free of mana. You can use it while silenced. I mean, there's so many ways to use Healthstone effectively. But right now, LFPL back down again to that loser in the losers bracket with a rematch to a team they beat early on. But it looks like we're going to be getting into this game relatively soon in the next 30 seconds or so. What do you expect? What sort of change-ups do you think that Amigos, what sort of adjustments do you think they should make to kind of redeem themselves from their early loss to this LFPL team?
I think they should just switch it up completely. But before I move on to that, I just want to say I was confused in the last series when Nature was up on that wall up, but the player who they've actually got signed up on their roster is just using his account to play on, I'm afraid, because he is a US player and didn't have one ready for himself. So that's fine. That is the signed up player, so there is no problems with that. But moving on, talking about this series that's about to come up right here, I think LFPL 3K, when they was in that first round against Amigos, when Amigos took that first game, they were just kind of like getting to grips with things, getting the feel of it. But now they seem so convincingly, so dominant in a lot of the games that they played. Even though Twink Mentors took that 3-0, it was so back and forth. I feel like they're such a strong team. It's going to take Amigos to step up a lot to kind of match these guys and try and not be the ones that get knocked out of the tournament. In regards to positions, though, I feel like they need to go for something that's a little more control-based, that's going to cause a lot of aggro for that Rep Paladin, because they're always going to be running with that Rep Paladin, so they really need to make his life hard as possible.
Yeah, and I think I do think, though, that they should be running Cupid for the rest of this tournament. I mean, I think that comp's really scary. I mean, in Frostmage, you get a lot of control for the enemy DPS, but it's so much easier to land a full trap than it is to land a full polymorph onto these enemy healers who are playing so defensively. And again, I was expecting to see a Hodge trap setup from this Cupid Cleave. And the first trap that landed, it was off of nothing. It was just a raw trap, which is fairly difficult to land. I don't think he even used concussive shot to get that trap, so maybe Raz could have avoided that somehow. But having that trap as a CC tool instead of that polymorph, it's significantly easier to line CC up on enemy healers.
What actually happened there, Moran, was about 10 or 15 seconds before that, CXZ, the Ret, he hodged Raz and he instantly trinketed that, which was great because the trap didn't follow and get baited by any means. But I don't think Raz was just expecting the long-range throw trap. That was a 30-yard range trap, and Raz was running directly back towards the post, so he just planted the trap ahead of him, and Raz ran into it as it landed there. It was in hindsight, he would have thought, yeah, I could have avoided that. But at the time, I don't think he would have expected that hunter to risk missing a trap from that range. I think that was why he was confident in getting back to that pillar ASAP. And that resulted in that trap with no trinket, only having bubble left available at that point in time. And I don't think that ret should be using that Hodge on the healer. I mean, it was great that he managed to get the trinket with it, but I don't think it's necessary. I feel like that the Hodge should be on the nuke target, because when the healer's got no trinket, the nuke target's got no trinket. It's just a train fest then. Land the trap. If the priest can fear the second DPS or go in for a fear onto the healer out of the trap with a Hodge on the nuke target, it's just game over.
Especially since there's all these hybrid melee classes. I think, having that Hodge available to deny the off heals is really important. So I do take your point. So yeah, I think if they're able to land that setup, looking forward, it's going to be quite scary. But we do have I think this is the exact same matchup they played in the first series. We do have a enhancement shaman warlock versus a red paladin frost mage, with healers, both healers being disc priests. So pretty standard choice. I was expecting to see this at least from Amigos. But LFPL, they are sticking to their guns, so to speak, playing that red paladin mage. So they're going with their comfortable pick, and I like that going into the first game. This first game is a blind pick, and playing with what you're comfortable playing, I think that's the key to having a good first map.
I think so too. The gates are now open. You can see that Walk Relent's taking that defensive position at the pillar, but so are the Amigos. Garitox is not scared of pushing in there a little bit, trying to fake the wind shear, but he does get locked out on there, not managing to fake CRZ getting hit by that full fear, whilst Garitox gets pounded by damage. That Penance coming in there as well. You can see the Blood Fury has been popped, the full poly onto Battlecaster, so he's not going to be able to follow up with some of that damage, making that Blood Fury wasted. Maybe you shouldn't be throwing that out in the opener, hoping that you can get a quick give in that scenario. But having a look at things now, everyone's still got the trinkets. It's practically a reset, but the wind shear has come out onto Garitox there as well, but he has arcane missiles. He's playing that arcane spec as well. That's a lot of burst damage that he could throw out there. Here it is, Moran. The execution sentence has come out. Garitox is taking a lot of damage here as well, but the full poly has come out onto Mesmerize. Is Big Daddy going to be able to, I'm Baddy, going to be able to heal through it? He's just trying to kite the best he can. Is he going to get it off? No, the arcane blast just blows up in his face, making him just drop to the ground, and that's going to be the first game going to FLFPL 3K. Convincing win by them in this first game of the series.
A really good play by both CX and Wanted by Oracle, and they overlapped a little bit, but it was still a beautiful play. Mesmerize was forced to trinket a full polymorph and instantly got arcane torrented, and shortly thereafter got followed up by a full duration fear. AoE fear, so really good job by this team capitalizing on the trinket instantly, both with that arcane torrent and with that psychic scream. So yeah, really good game by LFPL, taking the first series with that executioner sentence damage. And I don't know, it's going to be very difficult, it seems, for Amigos to get anything going. They had some pressure early on, but it didn't really matter at the end of the day, as this control wound up being king in this matchup, as Trinket was instantly forced, and the CC chain lasted with that arcane torrent and that full fear. So really good job again by this mage red paladin team.
Absolutely. I mean, they've done a great job thus far. Like you say, it was a bit rocky to begin with, a bit back and forward, especially on Amigo's team. I mean, popping so early and trying to just commit so hard, looking at the position of the enemy healer at that time, I don't think it was wise to go in that hard and just kind of go all in, wasting the DR as well onto the Ret Paladin, because that essentially cost the trinket. They should kind of wait for the mage team to push in there, because they do have a wind shear to shut down the polys and kind of punish the mage for pushing in for that CC, or punish the Ret for pushing in for the Hodge. Let them make the first play and use that wind shear, punish them for it. Use the fears to shut down that go, and then counter it with retaliation damage, and then potentially get a fear onto the healer as he pushes in the healer's team. I think that's how they need to play it, but they played it as the aggressors, and I think that was the incorrect way to go about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of adjustments I think that Amigos needs to make if they want to remain in this tournament. But LFPL seems to easily be, they seem to have the comp advantage, and at least the strategical advantage going into this series. And we are waiting for the next game to start. It looks like Dalaran will be our next map, and again, everyone picking Dalaran as the first counter pick. So again, I think it's just a map that people are relatively comfortable with compared to Blade's Edge and Ruins, which are very punishing maps for healers. But Dalaran, you can play pretty safe as a healer. It's really good for these caster melee teams. It can be frustrating for the casters because you can't, it's very difficult to land CC, but healers can play relatively comfortably near that box the entire time. So I think, again, a pretty comfortable counter pick for these teams.
Yeah, I think that a counter pick needs to be made at this point. They need to think long and hard about it. As I said, and I stand by it, they need to find a way to shut down the Ret Paladin, to not allow him to get that Hodge so that he can throw out that execution sentence, force them to swap their setups up. I think that's what's going to be very important. Force that Hodge onto the nuke target, and just force them to go onto the target that isn't the hybrid off healer, I think, because then that hybrid, if it's going to be a shaman, for example, he can win sheer polys, he can off heal on the go. I think that they need to kind of figure out a way to make it happen. Maybe they should resort to a double melee. Not too sure about it because they're running with that mage, but it is an arcane mage, bear in mind. It's not a frost mage. They don't have that blizzard snare. The frost bolts don't snare. The only shutdown they've got is poly and nova. So you can kind of play around that. But I think that it might be a good option. Possibly a brewmaster monk. Stand by that. Brewmaster's good.
I was talking early on about the specs that these mages could be playing, and I thought you said I don't think Arcane is that good, but I think with this Red Paladin team, I think the burst that they line up is actually pretty amazing. That's all Arcane is really good for, is just bursting someone down. It doesn't matter what HP they're at. So if he has 4 stacks of Arcane and he casts an Arcane Blast and throws a Barrage in there, it's a lot of damage. And it can drain your mana if you just stand there and free cast, but you don't really need to free cast as an Arcane Mage with this Red Paladin. You just need to be able to set up your damage when it's needed, which is when the healer's put in a full Hodge or a full Polymorph. That's when you spend your mana. That's when you dump your damage. But again, we're going into Dalaran Arena, which again is I think a pretty comfortable counter pick for every single team. And I want to follow. I want to follow CX throughout this series, as he seems to be the setup for these kills. Both teams right now kind of charging into the center. It looks like they're going to Mesmerize is going to establish himself at this box, which I think is perfectly fine. Once again, CX getting put into a full fear, and Battlecaster has been doing that every single game, just casting these fears onto CX. In my opinion, I think he's wasting DRs a bit, but CX actually deciding to mount to get back in there. Right now, I'm Batty's taking a lot of damage as he is just forced into Ghost Wolf and forced to kite back.
I think the fears this time around at the beginning of the game was good because CXZ was in a very good position to try and get that Hodge. If he'd have landed that Hodge, that could have been an early trinket. So that was a good fear. I'm not sure about the refear. I think that was unnecessary. They kind of want that DR to drop off him as quickly as possible because he still had that Hodge. But anyway, let's get back into it. Garitox taking a lot of damage right here because I'm Batty's throwing out a lot of DPS right now. Mesmerize choose to trinket that full polymorph. No polymorph to follow, but boom! And Batty just got global there by the Arcane Blast into the Arcane Barrage, and he just took him down. That was just damage that couldn't be healed.
Yeah.
That was a burst, right?
CX really wasn't doing much. I think the Executioner sentence, that's what he contributed. But I think he was off healing when I'm Batty died. So yeah, really quick way to end that game.
Press that Execution sentence, Moran. It does around 50% ish of someone's health after 6 seconds. That's all he's got to contribute. He's just got to make sure his team doesn't die. He knows that, and he was doing that. You're right. He was just off healing, just stood there, not really tapping many buttons other than flash. Yeah,
but he was able to. What he did do, which is perfectly fine, or exceptionally well from him, is he did Hodge the polymorph trinket on Mesmerize. So Mesmerize, once he got put in that full poly, he noticed that I'm Batty was going to die. He instantly trinketed it, but CX was there for the Hodge. So really good job by this French team, capitalizing again on trinkets from these healers. It's the second game in a row where they've ended the game based off of a trinket. They've followed up the CC instantly on these healers. So that's exactly what you need to do. And they finished those games perfectly. So really good job by this French team, knowing when to push in and go for the kill.
Yeah, the kind of the judgment calls on that are really good. I must say, throughout the tournament, they've been pretty consistent of knowing when to commit, when to overcommit. because they can afford to, because they're ahead on defensives and stuff. Quite good at that. Couple times, like against Twink Mentors, for example, they went in too hard and the game got thrown for that. If you remember, they had 3 trinkets at one point. Twink Mentors had nothing left available and they still managed to lose because they overcommitted. But I think they may have learned from that lesson. But the point that I'm trying to get to is against this Amigos team that's not putting out that pressure like Twink Mentors were. I mean, they can afford to go a little bit more aggressive, and it's paying off for them. They're scoring the kills, they're getting the setups that they want. I feel like what needs to happen is Amigos needs to think a little more about the positioning relative to when the healer's susceptible to getting hit by CC. I think that they should see the CC incoming, sometimes even let it happen and pre-run away and just drop down the bottom of the arena, line of sight in the mage, bringing the paladin down bottom, and essentially you could even kite him away. Use the Earthbind totem, drop down, get line of sight, waste that poly DR, waste that Hodge. Just kind of break up the chains like that rather than being in a position when his healer gets hit by the CC, tanking all of that damage. I think
Yeah, a lot of
play is required.
A lot of being a good healer in this game is not knowing when to position now, or positioning not for what's going on right now, but positioning for things that'll happen in the future. So it's very difficult for these healers to avoid that Hodge. I mean, it's an instant cast. It's a range CC. It's pretty easy for CX to throw that out. So not much you can do about positioning around the Hodge when it happens. But what you can do is position yourself in such a way that when you get Hodged, you're out of line of sight of the polymorph casts. So that's really what this team needs to be thinking about, is not how they can avoid CC right now in this moment, but how they can avoid CC in the future. And so that's kind of the adjustment I think that this team needs to be making. It looks like we're going to Blades Edge Arena, which I think is a pretty good map for this team. The Shaman, I believe, is still playing Enhance. I could be wrong. So
Expecting for you real quick.
Let's see. The Shaman is playing Elemental, actually. So yeah, and I was going to say
yes.
Elemental is a really good option on this map with that Thunderstorm. We haven't seen it be used too much. It does have a fairly long cooldown, but if the Shaman, what he's going to be looking to do is deny those setups from this team with that Thunderstorm. He can knock the Red Paladin off the bridge, and Red Paladins have very limited mobility. So if he gets the knock, throws an Earthbind on that Red Paladin, that's going to be taken out of the game for quite a long time. So it is basically like a CC. So I want to follow this Elemental Shaman, see what he does, see how he positions, see how he plays, because I think he's going to be really important in this matchup.
Yeah, we'll have to see, but notice that Battlecasters really got to bring out some damage if they're choosing to play with this Elemental Shaman. They tried this before, they failed with it. Let's see if they can make it happen as the Full Fear connects out onto CXZ, and it does break off the dot damage there. Notice that he's not looking to push in right here like he has been doing early in the openers, but a lot of damage is coming out onto I'm Baddie there as well, just solely by Garitox on the Arcane Mage, relentlessly throwing out those Arcane Blasts and missiles, doing significant damage there with Art Relent at the back, sat in that Full Fear there. As you can see, Garitox and CXZ are choosing to fall out at that point in time, not leaving themselves in too deep to cause Relent any issues at this stage. Great positioning, great understanding of the awareness of what's going on in the arena right now. Amigos, they need to do something quickly.
Yeah, and right now would be a really good time for Mbad to use this Thunderstorm, as the polymorph is going to be casted. It does get line of sighted, but Mbad's in a really good position. He can easily control this fight from right here. He is deciding to pull back. I don't really like that too much. It looks like there is going to be an Executioner sentence thrown out onto Mbad. It's going to be proccing for a lot of damage in just a moment. It looks like Mbad just took a ton of damage. Mesmerize getting put into a full polymorph, gets chained into a full Hodge. Really good job. Mbad just forced to run away in that Ghost Wolf. Run, little doggy, run. Get out of line of sight. And Mesmerize getting put into a half poly. Mbad just forced to heal and actually want to buy Orcolent, charging it in
But he's not out of trouble just yet because the CC was still on to Mesmerize. Have they got anything to interrupt that penance? No, I'm bad. He manages to survive there. As you said, run, doggy, run. That's the way to play this. That's why they brought out that Elemental Shaman. But Garitox is taking damage here. The Exy sentence has come out. Is Garitox going to throw out damage there to go along with it as it connects? No, he's not. But the wind shear does get thrown out onto Art Relent, and nothing comes of that go, which isn't a problem. It only takes 18 seconds for it to come off CD. And you can see right now, LFPL want to be the aggressors as they're about to push back in here.
Yeah, LFPL just charging in. I think that Hodge is going to be off cooldown. The Executioner Ascent should be coming up relatively soon. If they can land it, yeah, full poly lands onto Mesmerize. Executioner Ascent lands. I'm Bounty just forced to run away into Ghost Wolf. He's avoiding a lot of damage right now, but Mesmerize, certainly he's going to be full feared after this or something. No, he gets put into a full Hodge. I'm Bounty just doing an excellent job kiting. Overlapped with that fear. That was a big mistake, but it might not even matter as I'm Bounty is taking a bunch of damage down below. He's actually going to go down. So even though this LFPL team overlapped CC, it didn't even matter as Imbadi was under so much damage. He was kiting in Ghost Wolf, which was fine, but he's just taking too much damage to deal with. And LFPL advancing into the finals of this tournament for a rematch against Twink Mentors. So well played here by the Amigos. I think they fought well, but not well enough, as this LFPL Ret Mage team proved to be too much for this Shaman Lock team.
The Ret Mage team that can also play the Hunter. This is going to be one of the good top contenders in this event going into the grand finals. That can go either way. Don't let the previous series be a reflection as to how you think this finals will pan out. Anything can happen at this point in time. I wanted to point out there as well, though, about that fear at the end, that psychic scream. Art Relents playing Goblin. He leaped on top of Mesmerize, didn't care about overlapping that fear because he also caught Battlecaster in that fear, making it a 3v1 scenario. That's what happened. It was just really well timed there. Good positioning, good use of the Goblin leap there as well to secure that CC as much as they can. And that's when it broke on Battlecaster at some point, and he dropped down to try and fear peel, but it just inevitably wasn't enough, and he did go down. But yeah, great job there by LFPL 3K. Consistent with the 3-0s until they faced Twink Mentors last time. Let's see if this is going to change as we go into the grand final.
Yes, and we're waiting for both teams to get ready. We might be going into a break, but we're not sure yet. Looks like one team is ready. We're just waiting for confirmation on the other team. But yeah, this is going to be a matchup. And again, the match that these teams played earlier, the series that these teams played earlier, it was 3-0, but it was a really tight 3-0. We talked about that before. I mean, these games were really close, and it seemed like Twink Mentors could have easily lost that series, despite them winning at the end. But yeah, I think if they utilize that marksmanship hunter more, I think that's going to be a really important mix-up for this comp. But it looks like we are going to be taking a 3-minute break as we're
But before we do, Moran, I just wanted to say that Hunter, I don't know if he has been doing, but if he's going in there with that Ret Paladin, he's only come out for one game, but if he has that Mortal Strike pet as well, on top of all the damage and CC they can bring out, that's going to be so punishing to the Twink Mentors at this point. Playing that Holy Paladin, low healing as it is, put the Mortal Strike effect on top of that, with all of that CC, with only 2 breaks, I think we might see an unexpected tournament champion. But guys, we'll find out after a quick break as we go into this interval before the grand finals. It's going to be 3, maybe 4 minutes. If you need a break, have a break now. You don't want to miss anything when we get into this best of 7 series, guys. Sit tight. We will be right back really soon. Here it is, guys, the moment we have all been waiting for. This is the grand finals of the Spring 19 Xpoff League tournament right here. Twink Mentors going up head-to-head in a best-of-7 series against LFPL 3K, two teams who have played exceptionally well throughout this whole event. In the semi-finals, Twink Mentors beat LFPL 3K 3-0 to knock LFPL 3K down to the lower bracket at that point in time. But in the last game, we seen them pull out a composition we did not expect to see. Me and Big Moran, we think that that comp has got the minerals to potentially carry them to be the tournament champions. But this series can go either way. Moran, analyze these teams, break it down, talk to me about what we've seen this far in the event.
Well, LFPL, they're incredibly setup based. They play based around those Hodges, based around those CCs. Twink Mentors, quite the opposite. They just kind of rely on raw damage and just like interrupts to finish out games. So you kind of have two different play styles kind of connecting in this grand finals, which I love to see. I love to see, you know, two different metas kind of clashing for you know, to try to, it reminds me of those cooking shows, you know, where the Top Chef or whatever, where the chefs are competing, the cuisines are competing. We have control versus damage, and I love that. And so I think LFPL, again, I like these French players. I think they're playing really well, and I think especially CX is lining up his CC perfectly with those huge executioner sentences. And so again, I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think playing with that Mortal Strike pet is key. Certainly he is playing with that. I don't know what pet he would be using other than that, but you know, if he can run in, get a Warstorm trap or get a Hodge trap or something, or trap with the Hodge onto the DPS, I think that's the key. So if they can get as many of those types of setups as possible, then they are the setup-based comp, and so I think they really need to be playing off their strengths.
Absolutely. I mean, the way you got to think about it is they don't need that Hodge on that healer. And I was just having to think about it going off what you were saying then. If they use the Hodge on the target that is of the enemy onto the enemy team, that will put their healer in susceptibility of CC, hypothetically against this rep mage team. No, sorry, against this this mage.
Ooh.
What they be playing? Lock, enhance.
No. We have a bit of a comp swap.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Well, let's see. Yes. This is what I said just goes completely out of window with this one, because this is just CC galore, guys. I'm pretty excited for you guys to see what I'm about to see, but this is going to be very interesting. Both of these teams can deal so much CC and so much damage at the same time. This is just going to be a raw case of outplay and outplay only. These French players, they are mean. We did not know at the start of this event what they were capable of, but we've seen a lot of great things, a lot of great initiative and intuitive plays being made by this team. Can they go up hard? Can they take down Raz? Can they take down Best Will? Can they take out Bianco? We'll find out as these gates are about to open.
And we do have the comp adjustment, the Mage Warlock now. That's a lot of control, and I really like that. I want to follow CX. CX is going to be CC'd a lot, I think, in this game. It's going to be very difficult for him to push in and get those Hodges. Right now, he is looking to get his Holy Power stacked with those Judgments and those Crusader Strikes, but not able to get much going as Best World and Bianca are just free casting into him. He might actually go down here. Garridos, oh my gosh, he goes down. Well,
he died from the dots there at the end. This is scoring problems for LFPL 3K running that Rep Paladin composition. I mean, I said this earlier on in the previous series that the way to beat this Rep Paladin is to play something that puts him in trouble. So when he tried to do his job, that he can die. And this is the comp. This is the counter. They have the Holy Paladin, the War, and the Mage, all different schools of CC, all range damage, and the amount of damage these arcane mages can deal is just phenomenal. We've seen it time and time before from Garridos. So bringing out Bianco on that mage as well, infamous within the bracket for playing that mage, knows it inside and out. This is going to be really hot.
I'd like to point something out really quick. He died to a Drained Soul and an Arcane Missile, so two spells you cannot line of sight. I mean, once those get channeled, it doesn't matter where you are; those aren't going to follow you until you outrange them. So he went behind the box to get healed from his partner, but it didn't even matter. He's still taking a ton of damage, and that Drain Soul with those UAs and those full dots, that's a lot of damage. And pair that with some arcane missiles, especially if the mage has stacks, that is a ton of channel damage. And channeled spells have the advantage of being able to go through line of sight. So yeah, CX very limited here. And it reminds me of Endgame. And I know a lot of Ret Paladins at Endgame complain about arcane mages because, you can't hit them. And when you can't hit them, they just blink away. And if you're in the center of the map, it's very difficult for you to do anything offensively. So yeah, these two casters just zoning CX out, being forced to play back early, but it didn't even matter because they had the channel damage to deal with him going line of sight anyway.
So guys, as we take a look at the scoreboard and as it stands right now, it's going to be Twink Mentors 1-0 up against LFPL 3K at this moment in time. And I need to point out that this is very important. This is a best of 7. Whoever wins this best of 7 wins the whole event. There is no double finals for if the winner's bracket loses. None of that. This is just a clean cut best of 7. So these guys need to pull their socks up quick. They need to adapt fast. They need to adjust if they want a chance of winning in this grand final. Twink Mentors have not dropped a game throughout this series, and they've throughout this whole entire event is what I'm trying to talk about. And it's looking very convincing that they're not going to drop one unless LFPL 3K can conjure something miraculous to be able to counteract their composition choices and the way that they're playing things.
Yeah, and I like this best of 7. It makes it very exciting. I like, even though bracket resets can be exciting in other games, I think for World of Warcraft, not having the bracket reset is really nice. I think having this last final big series is kind of the big ending to the show, and I love it. And so we're just waiting for the teams to go into the next map, which will be Blades Edge Arena. And that's the counter pick for this Ret Paladin Hunter team, which is kind of silly, in my opinion, to counter pick that into Mage Lock. I'm surprised they didn't go Dalaran. I've been saying it all throughout this entire tournament. Dalaran has been the safe pick, and I think Dalaran would have been a good counter pick because on Blades Edge, what are you going to do as the Ret Paladin? Nothing. I mean, you're going to have to cross that bridge through those two casters to get any CC rolling on the healer, and these two casters are just going to have free reign on CX this entire time. So a bit of an odd counter pick if you ask me, but maybe they have something planned. Maybe they have a comp swap in mind. I'm not sure, but in any case, the next game is going to be very difficult, I think, for LFPL, as this Ret Paladin is going to have to deal with that Warlock and Mage just throwing out control, throwing out damage in the center of the map.
If you was to ask me, which you're not, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I was to pick a comp to face into them right now, I would either go with the Discipline Priest, Hunter, Boomkin Druid, or I'd go with the Moonkin, Affliction Lock, Discipline Priest. Or possibly Holy Pally, or maybe Resto Shot. Any healer wouldn't matter. I feel like that comp would be a really good way to go up against this Mage, this Lock, and this Paladin. From Twink Mentors, because these guys are serious when they're playing that. They don't mess around. They don't make mistakes with themselves. When they commit to the setup, it's successful. It's consistent. So Twink Mentors really need to think about what they're doing, try and capitalize on any kind of momentum that they can gather.
And we do have a comp swap here, and I'm gonna leave it as a bit of a surprise, but expect to see a lot of DRCC potentially in this next matchup. But again, I think Best World and Bianco, they're just going to tee off on whoever's in the center of the map here.
I think so too, but notice, I think that's a Holy Paladin that we're seeing right here, ladies and gentlemen. I think they decided to have a spec swap here to make things a little more interesting. There's no way these guys are going to go triple DPS, because that is a Holy Paladin. That's going to allow a lot of defensive peels. They're easy CC onto the enemy healer with that trap, allowing them to push in and do some damage. They have Roar of Sacrifice there as well, which is going to be really effective against the Arcane Mage.
Yeah, Bull Rush throwing out a trap, it missed, but it doesn't even matter. Bull Rush is taking a ton of damage in the center of this map as those channeled spells just land. And right now, Gyarados is just trying to put out some pressure as best he can. I think he's going to be the target of choice, as they might set up on him. Gyarados taking a ton of damage right now from this Arcane Missiles, Arcane Barrage to follow, but it looks like he's going to be topped off. And right now, both teams are scared to commit. Actually, Gyarados as I say that, blinks in for the polymorph cast. He does get arcane torrented and war stomped on it, but the full trap does land on the Raz as Bianco is
The
forced to
X7 is
kite.
going to get hit by the fear any second. Just wait for it now. Look at that aggressive position. He's looking to get that Hodge, and he does throw it out, but the counter Hodge does come out there. Bianco choosing to trinket it. It's going to put him in a world of trouble if any CC connects onto him. That could be a double trade-off with a bubble as well. The fear poly overlap. So much damage coming out of the Twink Mentors, though, but the momentum is shifted onto Garatox, and he does go down. The position that they pulled him so far across the map, he was forced to go in for that Hodge, even though he knew he didn't want to against that mage lock composition. That was a mistake on Garatox's part, which snowballed into the loss of that game. Did you catch all of that, Moran?
Yeah, I mean, that happened so quick. But yeah, I mean, they had the damage and they had the control, and it was looking pretty tense for both teams. I think actually both mages were spamming Arcane Explosion or something. Or I saw a lot of AoE damage happening. Yeah, LFPL just committed for the kill, and they kind of in the act of committing, they fell a bit behind. They were caught by a proper defense from Twink Mentors, and Twink Mentors was just able to capitalize on that aggressive play and just turn it around really quickly with a kill on that mage.
I would love to see Twink Mentors pull out the RMP composition, because we all know Best Will can play Rogue. We know that Raz has access to a 19 Priest. I mean, I would like to see it. I'd like to see how these guys pull it all off together in the spotlight, under the eye of the spectator. I think that it'd be very entertaining to watch. Maybe they might surprise us and bring it out later on if they manage to get a couple more wins under the belt. I think if they get one more win, they can happily throw a game and still feel quite comfortable. So maybe they're going to do that, or maybe they're just not going to take any risks and just go for the clean sweep, because the way that this is going, they are just powering through this entire event. LFPL 3K, they're a good team, but they're having a lot of trouble handling the raw power and momentum of Twink Mentors right now.
Another class that I think might be good in this format is Windwalker Monk. In my opinion, they're kind of like a budget survival hunter. Survival hunters are obviously banned in this tournament, but Windwalker does pretty decent damage, and the damage is pretty similar to survival. And then they are pretty mobile, so you can deal with these casters. So I'm surprised we haven't seen any Windwalker Monks. I think Rogues, you mentioned it, would also be a pretty good choice. The only problem is when you play as a Rogue, you kind of have to play for those resets, and it's very difficult to get resets against these this mage team, especially if the mage is casting Blizzard. It's going to be difficult for the Rogue to get a re-stealth under those conditions. But in any case, LFPL, they need to make some sort of adjustment. And I don't think that Arcane Mage Mark Center was the correct adjustment there, but who knows what they have in store for this next game.
I stand by it. Affliction Warlock, Moonkin Druid, Resto Shaman / Discipline Priest. I think that's the way. I think it is.
Boomkin's pretty good. It does a lot of damage. You have Treants. Treants do a lot of bursts, and it's difficult for a lot of classes to avoid the damage done by Treants. They can be taunted away. Sometimes they hit things that you don't want them to hit, but at least when you initially put them down, they do a lot of damage to the target they're attacking. And you can use it on the move. And if you don't want to play Treants, you can play with instant cast. I don't even know what that's called anymore. Some instant cast spells. Yeah, so it's you have a lot of options as Boomkin. The only thing is you can still get polymorphed, and you don't have Moonkin form anymore, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, some sort of comp adjustment needs to be made, in my opinion, to deal with this Warlock Mage.
Well, you could always shift the polymorphs. I mean, just swapping over to Bear or Cat. I mean, if you know that they're on you, just due to position. There's a lot of ways that you can deal with that. They've got enough bucks to deal with it. They have dash there as well. You could dash him in cat form and war stomps onto healers and interfere. There's all sorts that you can do in the hands of a good player playing on a Boomkin Druid. So I would like to see if they have it in their arsenal to pull that out. I think it would definitely be a way to have a chance at handling this. But yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and we are going into Dalaran. Comfortable pick here for both teams, and we do have another comp swap. Both teams actually swapping comps, so that's pretty crazy that both these teams kind of going into this third series swapping it up completely. I do like the comp swap from both these teams. I think these are their best options to play into each other, so let's see if this adjustment favors Team PL or if it favors Twink Mentors.
I think that this is a good map choice for this Ret Hunter Priest team. I think they have a chance here, but they have to position well. They have to avoid what's he called, bet on that lock as much as possible. Because if he manages to get a fear onto Gyarados without having any dots on him for the risk of break, then Trinket's going to be coming out really early, and that's going to disable CXZ's ability to stay aggressive when he needs to. But Bianco, he's going to be playing that Enhancement Shaman as well, so he's going to have a melee target to sustain his damage onto. Want to buy Bull Rush is throwing out a lot of damage here as Bianco just pushing it in. The sheer coming out onto Gyarados there, managing to keep him alive. CXZ with the off heals there. A lot of pressure coming in. Raz pushing in for that Hodge. Manages to land it there as well. Is the fear going to connect afterwards? The full trap going onto Bianco there. That was a pretty poor trap. It was misplayed at that point in time, and Vet did not follow that Hodge with a fear. So Gyarados has managed to hold his trinkets. This is only going to play out into the favor of the Twink Mentors composition right now, but the Hodge connects out onto Raz. There's going to be no trap to follow, I don't think. DR Warstomp after it, though. That Hodge should have been held on a little longer as Bianco takes a lot of damage here. Healing Surge, desperately to keep himself alive. Windbull wants to buy Bull Rush. He's just throwing out damage. It looks like LFPL 3K may find some footing in this position.
Yeah, and Want to buy Bull Rush missed his trap again, wrapping up Nature, and it broke instantly. So 2 traps in a row. Missing onto the healer, and I think that's a big mistake. I don't know what the deal with that is, but it looks like One by Bull Rush is going to be the target of choice. Gyarados needs to play a bit conservatively, as Bull Rush could die easily to some drained souls here, as he's just desperately trying to avoid CCs. It looks like we get a full Hodge onto Gyarados. Meanwhile, CX gets put into a full fear, not able to off-field onto by Bull Rush, who is the target of choice. Trap misses again onto Bianco, so again, Wanted by Bull Rush misplaying again, and full fear right now on a Gyarados. Wanted by Bull Rush taking a lot of damage. CS gets full feared, can't break out of that, and Bull Rush is going to go down. No off heals available, no heals available from Gyarados. It's a really good job by Twink Mentors, keeping their cool despite at many times being under a lot of pressure.
I feel that LFPL 3K, they had so much opportunity to come through there, but they just executed it poorly. I don't know if it's a lack of experience on Hunter for Bull Rush. As I say, I don't know who's playing that, but I feel like that I think they're a 3-man roster. Let me just check this real quick before I go on to my point. Taking a look now, scrolling down this thread. Yes, they're a 3-man roster, so they're going to be kind of more limited to the comps they can play, at least with somewhat amounts of experience. But I feel like that Hunter could be played much better. And maybe that's the weak link in that composition. Although the composition on paper is strong, the positioning was good for a long time. I felt like the choice of traps was poor. At the end there, where Bianco got hit by that trap, that wasn't a missed trap. He threw that trap to peel himself. But I feel like that was just a bad... He could have used it on the healer and just got counter pressure, because his healer wasn't in any position to be susceptible to CC at that point in time. He would have been able to top him back off. But instead he chose to trap Bianco, got recovered anyway, but got no counter pressure. So it was kind of a trade-off he had to think of. Shall we go aggressive? Shall I go defensive? But I think in the long run that it didn't pay off. He needed to go for the trap on the healer, as there was none used that whole game.
I mean, yeah, again, trap is the 30-second cooldown, so he 3 traps in a row, so at least, a minute, basically a minute and 30 seconds of potential offensive pressure just kind of gone with those traps. I like the idea of kind of delaying the game, but you gotta finish. In order to win, you gotta deplete.
Finish it.
Yeah, you gotta
game in order to win, right?
the health bar has to hit 0 on the enemy team, and trapping the DPS doesn't really do that too well. So, weird traps coming out from Want to Buy Bull Rush, and we're looking at potentially the final game for this tournament, as Twink Mentors is sitting comfortably up 3-0 in this best of 7 finals. So we're going to be going into Ruins of Lordaeron in just a moment, as both teams are selecting their comps. And Ruins of Lordaeron, it was the only map left for this series, and it's I think it's a pretty good map for this Mage Warlock if they decide to play that comp again, because again, it's pretty wide open, and you can punish healers making positioning adjustments by getting those polymorphs, getting those fears off when those healers leave pillars. So the healer on the LFPL is going to have to play very, very safe and avoid these CCs when he's making any sort of positioning adjustments.
That's going to allow Raz to play the room as much as he wants because his DPS don't need to push in. That rep party's got to cross the map to be any threat at all. They can play for dampen if they wish, but they're that confident in the way it is right now. It wouldn't surprise me if the caster just pushed it on the center pillar, forcing the enemy team back into the room, allowing them to keep going forward to eventually cornering them in that back room, and then they can just CC anyone they want at will. Whilst Raz will always maintain that defensive position because he knows the only way he loses is if he gets hit by more than 2 CCs the whole game, because he only has 2 breaks. As long as he hits less than 2 CCs throughout that are impactful CCs, then he knows that his team's going to be fine. Because the amount of damage that's coming out, he seems to be able to heal through it on that holy powder.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Bubble takes a global, right?
Yeah.
When it eats up a global. Yeah, so that, I mean, it's, again, that seems like a very minor thing, but a lot of these games end in the blink of an eye, so it's almost like you have to preemptively bubble a CC if you see it coming on you, because you cannot waste that global pressing bubble sometimes. Trinket doesn't go on the global cooldown, so the moment you trinket, you can throw out a heal instantly, but with that bubble, you kind of almost, as I said, need to use it preemptively as it eats up a global cooldown. But we have both these teams running with the comps that I think they're strongest with. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think right now LFPL has an uphill battle, but let's see if they can pull it together in this final game of the series, in this potential final game of the series.
Let's see if they can do that. Both teams wanting to fight off for that center pillar as the instant Hodge comes out onto Gyarados. There's going to be no CC to follow. Yes, there is. The Polymorph does come out there while CXZ is in trouble, throwing out those flash heals early. CC to interrupt, then flash heals on him. With that fear, you can see right now Bianco is the target of choice, taking lots of damage here. The execution sentence below 50% HP. The Hodge onto Raz into the trinket. Is he going to go down here? Anything needs to come out onto Raz. The pre-bubble came on the fear. Fantastic bubble there. If he would have got hit by that global on that fear, he would have been toast. Great job by Raz there, anticipating that, but on the next go, they're not going to have anything left. All the LFPL 3K have to do is survive, not let them push in, just kite until everything's back up. CXZ, though, is a little deep in. On top of Bianco again here, the Frost Nova does come out. The full Polymorph should connect. It does. Bull Rush is taking a lot of damage here. He's not going line. He's taking a bit of healing here from CXZ. Is it going to be enough to keep him alive on this full CC chain? Maybe CXZ will run out of mana as he got War Stomp to deny some of this incoming damage. What's he doing? He's panicking and he goes down. No! Bull Rush, he threw the game. He could have lined. You just needed to run. All you needed to do was survive. You had everything you needed at that point in time. And unfortunately, Moran, we know what that means.
Yes, that means Twink Mentors is going to take this tournament despite some rocky games. I mean, again, that was a pretty close series. I mean, Bianco did drop really low to that executioner sentence early on, and that easily could have been his death. But again, that I was just talking about that preemptive bubble, bubbling as early as possible. And that's exactly what kept him alive, is because if you have any hesitation using that bubble, you're wasting precious time, especially since that bubble is going to eat up a global cooldown. And so really good job by Raz having the awareness to use his bubble instantly. I mean, the moment that CC landed, he pretty much used his bubble. And if he hadn't reacted that fast, that surely would have been a death for Bianco. So really well played by Twink Mentors overall in this tournament. I don't know did they drop a single game throughout this entire tournament?
They absolutely did not. They deserve every penny of this prize pool that they're about to get. And if I get this right, I think it's around $150 split amongst the guys. So well done for that, guys. And congratulations on your victory in the Spring 19 Arena Tournament event. We hope to see you guys coming back in the future for further events, and everyone else who participated in this event. Thanks again for turning up. We had a great time hosting this for you guys. You all played well. You all stayed within the spirit of the competition, and I like that. I'm very thankful for that. And again, thanks guys in chat for coming out here. I just want to get a confirmation real quick. I want to see if there's going to be any winners interviews or not, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'll just hand you over to Moran for a second while I try and figure this out, and then we'll see where we're going to go with the last part of the stream.
Guys, thanks for supporting the Twink community by tuning into this broadcast. The Xpoff League is going to be a series of tournaments throughout the summer. You will see some. You will see a U.S. version of this tournament. So I'm guessing I mean, not to put EU down or anything, but I'm guessing we'll see a bit more participation with the US tournament. A few more teams. I think Twinking is a bit more active on US, but I'm excited to see how this summer plays out with all these tournaments. And I love the Twink scene. I love shoutcasting these tournaments, even though I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better all the time, I think. And this is the first tournament I've casted, I think, in a really long time. It's been like a year or something since I've showcasted a tournament. I had to wake up at wake up for this at 9 a.m. this morning, all red-eyed and whatnot. And so, I'm glad you guys got to tune in. Glad you guys got to notice that my voice cracked in one of those series. I always love reading that in the chat and being reminded of that. But in any case, thanks again for supporting the Twink community. And it looks like we are going to have a winner's interview. Hopefully get one of them in here
Guys,
relatively soon.
This is not just going to be a winner's interview. This is going to be a team winner's interview. We're going to get all the guys in here. We want to have a conversation with the whole team, hear what they've got to say. You never know. Last time that Raz won an event, he was drunk. And that was quite funny. Let's see if there's any surprises that we're about to stumble upon whilst we're in here. Whilst these guys are getting on Discord, guys, I just again want to say thanks all for coming, tuning in and stuff like that. If you could, it would really, really help, and it would support the community events much more if you guys could drop a follow on the channel. Trying to build this stream up a little bit so we can get more regular games and try and just take things to a different level. I want to have a huge shout out to all of the production team and all the staff that pulled this whole thing off together. You all know who you are. I can't shout out everybody's names. And a huge shout out for Rick Duck for taking the initiative here. As he's recently took over the community site, he's done a great job of scheduling these events and trying to create a team and coordinate them in a way to be able to make this stream possible today. He's done a great job. It's nice to see someone stepping up because he had some big boots to fill. I can tell you that for free. I may not be here in future events. We don't know. And I think that you've got a team of people here, guys, behind the scenes who can bring you something of similar quality to what you witnessed here today. And I'm very happy to say that. Let me just take a look real quick and see if we've got these guys in the Discord channel. It's looking like that we do. So hello, Best World, Raz, Bet, and
Bianco didn't want.
Bianco didn't want to come, but hey, you three, how's it going? Congratulations on your win.
Thanks, man.
Has anyone got anything to say? Any shout outs to give?
You first, Ed.
It was pretty fun playing. Thanks for Raz for putting me on his team. I enjoyed playing Law. It's a fun series.
Were you guys at all concerned about losing to LFP? I mean, it was very tense at some points throughout that series. Do you guys have any doubts in your mind that you're gonna win?
It was close sometimes, but we walked in before and we didn't lose more than once. I think we lost once on play sets because of miscommunication, but the execution sentences were the only scary thing.
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot. I mean, that's I think the win condition that team has is that's pretty much every single kill they got throughout the tournament was based around that execution sentence. I'm just wondering, were you scared at all about the Hunter Red team? Because we were thinking, as the casters, we were thinking, well, that's a very scary comp to play around, especially if they were landing CC on the healer. But it seems like they weren't doing that. But do you think that comp was their strongest option?
Maybe. I think they put better on Mage Red for sure.
Oh.
I think they should hot change the trap more.
I think that the problem is that Hunter was not the main class of that guy who was playing it. I think he just a little bit of experience. Like at the end there, he kind of just stayed out in the open. I think he just got a little flustered because he didn't know what to do. And I think that was just lack of experience on the class, really. He just kind of panicked or whatever. But I do feel like that if they'd have landed a couple of more traps on you, Raz, that they could have took a game or maybe two if they was more consistent. So we didn't really see like a thorough kind of performance from them. And that played into your favor. I'm not saying that you guys didn't play well. You possibly could have won either way. But I would like to see those guys play that a little bit tighter to see what would have happened if everything was played at the level that it needs to be to have a chance of winning the event.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna be playing in the upcoming US tournament? In this exact same tournament that's on NA?
I don't know if I will. Maybe someone asks me, but I'm not gonna form my own team.
Ah. Ben, what about you?
I'd like to play, yeah, but I'm not sure yet completely.
And what are you guys gonna do with your prize money? What are you gonna buy?
A car.
A car, nice. We have a car, man. What about you?
Bro, I don't even have a credit card. I don't know how I'm gonna get this money.
Well, we can ship it to you in an envelope that I will personally lick myself. So, that
Yeah,
money's
Make
coming
sure
your
that it
way, boy.
arrives in your hands. Don't you worry. I just want to say, Best World, have you got anything to say at all here? I mean, you was playing that lock the majority of the games, and you did some really good plays as well. One particular thing that stood out in my mind was on Dalaran, where Raz pushed in for a hodge, and you instantly was precasted the fear on the trinket there that scored the win on the game. I mean, I'm not sure if that was set up entirely, but I think that it may have been intentional, and that's kind of one of the things I want to ask you about. I think you might be having troubles with your mic. I keep seeing you muting and unmuting it. I think. Anything? Best World?
He doesn't have a mic.
He doesn't.
I
have a
can
mic.
answer
He's just
the-
silent.
Yeah, he says his Discord's not working.
It wasn't entirely
Okay.
intentional. It was like lucky.
It was lucky. Okay, cool.
Hey,
Fair enough,
during
guys.
these winners interviews, you have to be as cocky as possible. Now you have to be like, nah, man, I did that, and the other team sucks. I'm the best. But anyway, do you guys have any final shout-outs you want to give before we go out?
Shout out to Bianco, he didn't want to be here.
Yeah, didn't want to come.
Yeah, to the casters as well, well done. And to Ripduck, Linden, Fielderbands for doing behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, thanks for forming this. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks for actually making tournaments. I think that's really good to see.
Well, I'm glad that you guys like it. But with that being said, guys, I'd like to wrap this up here. And again, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you could follow the page, that'd be great. Also, feel free to check out the website, xpoff.com. That's kind of the community hub where we all hang out, where we schedule and plan all of these events and orchestrate them. So if you do play 19s, you play in either EU or US or China, and you want to come over and play, doesn't matter to me. You just go check out that website. Stay in touch with the threads on there with where the events are. And feel free to sign up. Bring up your rosters. There's going to be a lot more events coming out over the summer. Big Moran, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No, again, thanks to everyone who supports the Twin community. Shout outs to Vet's chair for being the loudest chair in the world. Yeah, thanks for everyone who tuned in today. Again, make sure to follow xpoff.com, make an account, like all my posts, and yeah, that's the ticket to supporting the Twin community. And again, thanks for everyone who tuned in this morning. I know it's early for some people in the US, but for EU, this is perfect time. So again, thanks to everyone for coming out.
Hello? Can you hear me? Well, my
Yes.
computer's like doing some mad stuff. Like it's moving. It's like everything's moving on its own. Like what? Is it just me? Hello?